Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 237. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's cracking?
And despite telling you that he was not going to be here, due to potential dying diseases, Connor is here.
I am. I may have developed a slight cough in the last few days, and that means I'm not allowed to go to work. So here I am, I guess.
Yes, everyone's scared of the cough right now. Rightfully so, but it's just amusing that a lot of things that normally wouldn't keep you from work are now keeping you from work.
My work is extra strict as well, because I have taken a test, waiting for the results, but even if it's negative, I still have to wait a full 10 days before I'm allowed to work again.
On the upside, your knack for failing every test you've ever sat is going to come in handy for this one.
Hey, I'm actually really good at tests. Like, test conditions suit me wonderfully.
I just thought it was a good
Except
show.
for quizzes on the show.
I mean, proper tests.
He's lost all of those, you're right. Matt won all those. Very good point.
But proper tests, like exams, I mean, they suit me way more than they should.
I think that just tells you the education system is broken if it's benefiting you somehow. This is a DC
I'm a very
Comics...
smart person, thank you very much.
This is a DC Comics podcast. We talk about comics every week. Oh, where did Connor go? We talk about comics every week. And coming up on this week's show, and he switched to the other side. Connor, how dare you?
I don't know what happened. I said I'm very smart, thank you very much, and then Skype kicked me off the call.
Well,
So I was
Skype
like, what did you do?
Skype clearly disagrees. I'll fix the placement of it. Let me do the intro to the show. The chaos that's started off on this episode. I'm not having it. Started off. So coming up on this week's show, we have DCeased Dead Planet issue 7. We have another week of Future State books. We have Future State The Next Batman issue 2. Future State Superman Worlds at War issue 1. Future State Immortal Wonder Woman issue 1. Future State Nightwing issue 1. Future State Catwoman issue 1. And Future State Shazam issue 1. We also have Batman Catwoman issue 2. Rorschach number 4. And then Connor's got a couple of Patreon books to talk about this week. He's catching up still. He's got Red Hood 52 and Undiscovered Country issue 11. So that's what's coming up on this week's show. Matt did also read Legion of Superheroes issue 12, but I'll just let him say that in about a sentence or two before we start everything else.
Yeah.
Just to keep it from adding to the numbers. So that's what's coming up on this week's episode. And mercifully, there's no news to talk about, so we can pretty much just get straight to books. That said, however, I'm going to ask Matt how his week is as I fix the cameras before we start that.
Yeah, you do that. I'm okay. I've been dealing with sinus issues for like a week now, and I'm over it. Trying to get into a doctor's right now is also a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, I bet it is.
So, and then on top of that, getting called back into work, yet nobody knowing what's going on with the vaccine issue here in this country. It's just wonderful. So it's just a recipe for me feeling like absolute garbage today.
Oh,
But
so
I'm here.
maybe a cheery episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully comics cheer Matt up a little bit.
Yes.
You already know how Connor's week's been. We covered
Yeah.
that quite thoroughly. I had a mundane week. I don't know, I have nothing particularly exciting. Oh! I did have to put out a literal fire last night.
In your home?
Yes, literally a fire on the stove.
Oh, dear.
There was a towel. There was a
What
fire.
did you set on fire?
A towel, as I just said.
Oh, I thought you were using the towel to put the fire out.
No,
Like,
there's a
'cause
towel.
that's a common thing.
The towel caught on fire. It was nothing serious happened, but it was scary for a split second when I discovered just the flame just casually going. Clearly it just started though, because the smoke alarm hadn't even had a whisper yet.
I think you're fine.
Yes, but it was definitely a sight to walk in on, so that was my excitement for the week. So we'll get to the week's books as we do. Actually, there was one minor DC related point. You could hear me and Carl talk about this properly on the TV news that goes out on Monday, I think, maybe Sunday. But for some reason, the new Superman show is trying to be Man of Steel, and I don't know why. If you've checked out the trailer for the CW show, it's very odd.
Nope. Don't like that.
Yeah, we don't know yet that it's going to be terrible, but it's a CW show, so probably.
I mean, to be fair, the best thing about Man of Steel were the trailers, but the fact that the trailer's actively trying to be Man of Steel is very odd. But Carl, I thought I'd mention that since that actually happened this week. But yes, let's get into the books. Let's talk about DC Comics. So we'll start off with our own future state book. We'll start off with DCeased Dead Planet number 7. Not that I'm just giving that to Tom Taylor for top billing. That wasn't really the logic here. The logic was more, it's not a black label, and I'll put something before future state just to shake things up.
Yeah. Although out of all the books that should be black label, I feel like DCeased should be.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
It's kind of weird that it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually go far enough to say that it needs to be for the mature rating, but given that it's about zombies and a lot of murder, you would think that it would.
Right, but on the same logic, Strange Adventures is black label, yes, and that actively, censors the swearing. But as a creative choice, they've said that they wanted to. So it's like, I mean,
it censors the swearing, but I would argue the themes of that book are actually quite mature.
Sure, but I mean, you can have mature themes in a child-friendly book quite easily.
You can. I wouldn't say Strange Adventures is child-friendly, though.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's unfriendly for children. They just wouldn't get it. They probably wouldn't enjoy it.
No, they would like it. It would just be weird to them. But
yeah,
I think if this is a black label book, because I think it's what it's talking about, what it's doing is very mature, even if it's censoring the swearing. DCeased Dead Planet is kind of pulpy, despite its dark subject matter.
Yeah, I mean, As long as androids are zombies, so I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that Strange Adventures shouldn't be black label, just more, I mean, maybe this should be as well.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like it exists in its own little world. I mean, it started off as a mini, and then it got that the Unkillables, which was a mini of a mini, I guess you could call it, right? And then the sequel, and then the sequel, and then in between that you have the digital first that might not ever be released physically. We haven't seen anything yet.
I don't. So maybe it will eventually, but from what I read, it didn't seem like it was friendly to being transferred into the format.
So Dead Planet just exists as its own thing. So I mean, I get why it's not just black label, but at the same time, I feel like it needs its own banner. I guess DCeased is that at this point.
Yeah, it's funny because honestly, this is obviously the final issue. This is issue 7, and I don't necessarily feel like this is really leaving it in a place that feels obvious for it to continue in any way. It feels like a nice, neat ending.
It's the ending of the DCeased zombie storyline,
right?
But also leaves it in a place where you could tell stories in this world with this Justice League, no problem.
You totally could. Do they want to do that? Is that a plan? I have no idea. This could totally be where we leave this and never come back, and it would be perfectly fine. You'd have this little trilogy of DCeased, Unkillables, and Dead Planet, and it would be a perfect little run to read.
So essentially an 18-issue run, when in terms of the page count.
Yeah.
That would make a very nice, oversized hardcover.
Yeah. A nice little plus that one shot they did in the middle of the first one. So you got about 19 issues of it's a better way to talk about the actual issue, talk about how it wraps up and ends, and the kind of the final big moments that we have here, which involves John being very Superman, and Constantine doing some
very Constantine.
very Constantine, yes. Notably, I had to not call him John because that would have just made things confusing. Yeah. Too many Johns.
It comes down to 2 Johns.
I suspect that is the exact reason why whenever we have like Zatanna narrating it, and there are points when she mentions Constantine in a way where you'd feel like she would probably normally say John, but I feel like just to, even though it's spelled differently, I do think they did that as an intentional choice to make it clear just who she's talking about without any thought involved.
Yeah. Tom Taylor's really good at big moments like this, because this book's full of them.
Like we knew coming in with the insight, I see.
But no, just like we knew this is the last issue and it's going to end with a bang, but I didn't realize there's going to be like 4 different ones.
Yeah.
Right. And each of them all feel very right and fulfilling.
Yeah, it kind of breaks down into sort of, I mean, there's a lot of tease with Trigon and Zatanna and Phantom Stranger at the start, but it then breaks down to John and Damien fighting an Amazo on the way to the Australian base where the villains have been. So they're trying to basically turn off all the Amazos at the source. And And there's a moment where John, in his narration at the very least, says, "Oh, he just tried to kill my best friend. Like I'm not holding back now."
Right.
to the Amazo robot, which kind of is a sweet moment. Like the idea that he gets defensive because something almost kills Damien. He's like, "No, okay, I'm not having this now. Right, enough of this shit." But you have a couple of sweet moments. You have a moment where the military that are working for the villains refuse to attack Superman with their whatever plan they've got to take on a Superman-like being. And John thanks them for it afterwards, and it's kind of a sweet moment.
They're like, dude, I'm not hurting Superman. Like, there's a line here.
Yeah.
Millions of innocent people turn to zombies, yes. Superman, no.
I get it, though. I understand where these guys are coming from, because as far as they're aware, they're zombies, they're dead. Just, take them out. Let's make the world safe for the rest of us. But this is Superman. That's different.
Oh, yeah, as it's pointed out even in this issue, none of these characters know that there's a cure.
Right.
That is not knowledge. Even when Superman and Batman are talking about it, they're saying, "Hey, yeah, these villains, like, they don't actually know that we can cure everyone yet, so we can't hold it against them that they had this plan in place. We can't really." So, meanwhile, you've got Wallace speeding around, delivering the cure with his
Doing
cure
as
gun.
fast as possible. Like, and him and John saying that they'll race and they'll meet in Asia. You go this way, you go that way. That's another one that just felt right.
The idea is that they're trying to stay ahead of the Amazos because the Amazos won't target anyone that's alive.
Right.
Yeah. So, you could have almost done a full issue of that, just like them trying to stay ahead. That could have been a fun, like, tense issue, but there's so much else going on in here because we have to also fight Trigon.
Yeah, it's like 3 pages in this at most.
Well, and I like how the Australia stuff resolves itself with they're all standing there and Penguin automatically recognizes Damien. He's like, "You're the Robin," right? And that's when they go to shoot Superman, and they say no. And all of a sudden, he just falls to the ground, and you find out that Constantine has used the Ragman's cloak to basically pull all the corrupt souls that are in that bunker. So a nice bit of commentary out of Tom Taylor.
Quite a feast as well, I'd imagine, given the characters that were in that bunker.
All these people that were just self-serving during a plague. It filled up, to the brim, so Constantine could fight Trigon. Which again, I appreciate Tom Taylor's version of Trigon, who's essentially just the devil, right? Like in other continuities, he's like just one of the demons or a multi-dimensional being, but here, like, no, he represents the eternal damnation of afterlife as he keeps taunting Constantine with. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Constantine...
I like when he is like the king of demons, which you see sometimes.
Constantine does knock him down, but ultimately his plan is to be killed, so that because he's taken Dead Man's powers. So now, as Ghost Constantine is how he's actually going to beat Trigon. But so that's kind of how
it real
wraps
cool
up.
Too with Taylor doing the narration from Constantine, where he works in all the different magical aspects, with the speed of Mercury and the strength of Hercules, and combined with the forces of order.
Yeah, it was like using Xanadu's crystal ball to just see far enough into the future to avoid the attacks.
Right, and then he would come back around on the next part of the attack because he had the wisdom of Solomon to know, and you're just like, oh man, and then you see him get taken down, and you're like, crap, which I forgot that he had taken Dead Man's power. Like, I know that was a big moment, but with how fast this book has moved, I forgot that was a plot point. So then when he appears to Zatanna as a ghost and he's wearing Dead Man's like costume, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, he's got the big D on the front.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's all Zatanna's narrating this whole Minnie's been Zatanna narrating, so her perspective and sort of being very reminiscent and saying goodbye to him and all that. It has a lot of moments. Basically, we get a montage at the end of like various characters who were still in one piece to come back alive, if you will, including Jonathan Kent, for example, is like, hey, you've grown,
Grandpa.
You've grown my grandson quite a bit. Because,
and it kind of reminds me of Endgame too, because like this is like the post.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is for all these people who have just came back from being a zombie, no time to them, no time has passed.
Right.
But all these people who left the Earth and came back have been gone for, what was it, 5 years, something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, at the beginning, I skipped over the new Justice League. Kind of, we get to see them go fight the Amazos, and you have Cassie's Wonder Girl and Cass's Batgirl with the lightning effect, and Mary Marvel, and like I want this team. I want a book with this team. Like,
and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I think Big Bad is on it as well. You know,
Barda.
we got like this team here where, okay, we can continue in the DCeased universe. It won't be DCeased with the zombie stuff. That's dealt with.
Right.
But we can play with this Justice League if we wanted to. And maybe Taylor does want to. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a real cool like selection of characters that he went with, and just when you read all of these, like, because what's cool about these two is you don't have to read them all, but if you do, this all adds up. So the fact that Cass has gone through so much to get to this point where she has the bat suit back on and she's taking out the Amazos, it's a real good feeling. And the Mary Marvel, she's attacking with the living lightning.
I also think that ending the book, because at the end of this montage, the final page of the book is actually, it's Dinah and Ollie, and I think not just because she's been like promising them all this mini that she's going to somehow find a way to bring him back, but because they were such a core part of that first mini, it's a nice way of feeling like bookending the entire run. Because it's like they were such a central part of the first story that having this end with them kissing and her having him back was, I think, a really nice touch.
Yes.
And, it proves that Tom Taylor, as much as he can devastate us on a regular basis, does like to leave his stories hopeful at the end.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think Taylor's devastation is always based in knowing exactly what we care about. So that's why it always hurts. He knows what buttons to push. It's not just it's not that he's getting things wrong and we're getting mad at him. It's like, no, he's pulling the strings that, why we care about, say, a Dick and a Babs relationship, or why we care about take any pair, like why we care about that particular pair, and he knows how to make it hurt. So,
pretty much.
It's hard to find much fault if you've been enjoying this series, you've been enjoying this saga since it started, and it must have been 2018 this all started now.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe 2019.
I think it was October 2018, wasn't it? I'm sure it was towards the end of the year.
Was it? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I just remember the great movie, like they started off, the variants were like really good. They've gotten a little bit, I don't want to say worse, but less inspired as we've gone.
Yeah, the art's not gotten worse. It's just the concepts of what movie posters have taken have gotten a little bit.
They could pull from, right? Because that Blade Runner one was really cool, but like they started off as horror because when I was organizing my comics, I have the first couple that were like really inspired. Like
I think the problem is that DC seems to have insisted, or Warner Brothers seems to have insisted, that the posters have to be Warner Brothers movies. Yeah. And I feel like that limited their choice a bit. After they'd done the obvious like 4 or 5, it was like, now we have to start doing other genres. And
I just checked, by the way. The first issue was May 2019.
Oh, there you go.
Really?
The reason I thought October was that's when the first mini ended. It had its final issue the day before Halloween, so that's kind of why that was in my head.
I mean, it just shows you how little a gap there was then between that and Killables, because Killables was the start of 2020.
Did it start in 2020?
I don't know if it started, but the last issue or 2 were in 2020. It was right at the start of the year.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So it shows you how much of a gap there's not been between the various parts, which is nice. And it's kind of why it's kind of felt like an ongoing in a lot of ways.
It has just felt like we've had a DCeased book for a year and a half, give or take.
Yeah.
But hey, but Taylor's got other things to do at DC, so I mean, we'll be seeing him elsewhere, including ongoing Nightwing, baby. So, what are you going to give issue 7 of DCeased? Dead Planet, Matt?
I'm going to go with a 9. I think it really handled the juggling of all the stories real well and gave us a fitting end that didn't, like, it should have felt rushed, right? Because there was a lot going on with the end of the last one. And all of this it hit its, pacing real well. So yeah, 9.
Yeah, it was set up well enough. I don't think you felt that too much. Connor?
I'm going to go with an 8.5. And not that I think it feels rushed, but I do think maybe we could have had an extra issue. I know this was already 7, but just one more feels like this last issue was particularly dense, even though it read quite quickly still. There was a lot in it that I feel like, no, we could have explored a little bit more with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with an 8. I think I've liked this book a lot, but I think it almost suffers a little bit because I think Unkillables was like next level stuff. I think Unkillables is the best part of DCeased. That 3-issue.
Fair, that's fair.
Mini, I think, is the crown jewel of this whole thing. This was good though, and it paid off a lot of stuff that it had been setting up. So
I also just remembered. Now there's a cure. Superman's still in the sun. So
yeah, maybe a potential sequel would have John going to the sun. And...
I mean, I'm surprised Matt didn't gush about how well he treated the idea of Superman here. You're literally defying fate as like, he was supposed to die, but he's Superman. Screw it.
Right, because he's a spec, and as a spec, I'm telling you, you're stopping. That was great.
Yeah. So yeah, here today, try gone tomorrow, as they say. So. You love it, Connor. You pretend you don't, but you do.
I'm not gonna miss this shit.
Future State, the next Batman issue 2. I'll start off our Future State books for the week. Obviously, we liked issue 1 quite a bit. At least the main story. Obviously, backups are a bit more hit and miss. But once again,
is there a way for us just to get the main story and not have to deal with the backups?
that would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Well, I think next issue, now that you've sampled all the backups that we're going to get, because it's all just part 2s now of the backups we've already had. I think next time, if you want to just not read the backups, you can. You have that choice.
I mean,
yeah, but you're
right
still
now,
spending $8 for what, 25 pages?
Yeah, wait, Matt, we knew this. As soon as we started talking about DC putting backups into their books, we knew this was going to be a possibility with some of them.
I get where Matt's coming from. It feels a little bit more significant on these books, like this one in particular, and I think the Superman one this week, which are so big and such a price compared to, well, it's an extra. Like most of the backups that are going forward are like, it's an extra $1 for 10 pages of backup, whereas this is like quite significantly more than that.
It's not like, to me, and I'm glad you brought up Superman too. The main story versus the backups, the gap is huge, and I really wanted to like the backups in this one, and I just, we'll get to it. But
so far in this particular book, the Outsiders backup was fantastic. Everything else, yeah.
Well, we'll get into it, because I mean, I had a lot of pages to read this week, and certainly 2 of these books being 60 plus pages was not super helpful in that. But I mean, the main story here, I did like again. Now, the art is good. It's not as good as the first issue because it's not the same art. It's not Darrington again.
It's Darrington's still doing the breakdowns, but Laura Braga's doing the finishes.
Who's still good, but not as good. At least,
it's more blocky.
Taste depending.
It's more reminiscent of Dexter Soy and the thick lines and the kind of blockiness that I don't know. Like Darrington had a flow to it. And I know he's still doing the breakdowns, but I don't know. Like this art felt more like stiff, and not that makes it bad. It's just it's different.
Honestly, one of the biggest differences as well, I feel, is we've got a different colorist. Because we had a Tamara Bonvillain on the first issue. It's Arif Prianto on this one, and it's I feel the difference. It's not as deep with the colors. I think is a way to describe the first issue of this. I
feel bad for saying anything negative about it, honestly, because if we didn't have the art in the first issue, there'd be very little to complain about. This would not be something we look at and say, "Oh, this is subpar art" or anything like that. But because
it's not subpar art, it's not like when I opened it up and it wasn't Darrington, I was like, oh.
Yeah, because we had the first issue, because we had the different art, and then we come to this instead. Instantly it has to be compared because it's issue 2 of a thing.
And I still think there are some very, very good art in this story, but it's not as good. And I think it's a little bit disappointing that it's a 4-issue mini that we've known about for a while, that we couldn't get the same artist on just all 4 stories. Just get ahead on it.
This is my vibe on Future State thus far. is it definitely felt like, not that it was like necessarily thrown together, but there is a, hey, kind of try what you want, right?
I think the fact that they didn't have enough lead time to have the same artist for 4 issues worth over 2 months tells me that maybe this was thrown together a little bit more last minute than we maybe thought before.
I don't know if I agree with that, because and it's kind of what I was going to say when you were complaining about there not being the same artist in all 4 issues, which I agree I would rather have. But I feel like I hear you make that complaint a lot, and it's not that it's an invalid complaint. It's more that it's just the way comics are now, and clearly they have no interest in changing it. So
here's the thing. I disagree that.
Hold on, let me finish my point here. I don't necessarily think it indicates the future state was something. It may have been. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I don't necessarily think it indicates anything, because I feel like comics in general have been that way for a long time now.
No, this is where I disagree. I think DC comics have been that way for the last few years.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm talking about DC, because that's what we always talk about.
Right, but it's the double shipping that's mostly been the cause of this. Beyond that, they've mostly stuck to artists for full arcs, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean when you especially with this is a mini series where they have that awareness of this is all it is. This is something they're going to want to sell in bookstores in the future. I feel like it would be really easy to give them the lead time and have this be more consistent, especially as it's not like Nick Darrington's not on this issue at all. He's still doing the breakdowns. So he was clearly still involved. It's not like they divvied this up straight away. This was, okay, it's not going to be finished. We'll hand it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just my thing too. And I don't want to say that. I mean, I feel a lot of the backups are half baked, but again, the main stories, like I feel like this is a story that Ridley's been wanting to tell for a while, just because kind of what we had heard with Generations, those rumblings early back, So again, I feel like the main stories are fine, and then like give or take different art. Like that's not going to change how I feel about the story at the end of the day, right? But just some of them putting together the backups, the ones that they choose, and the creative teams on those backups, and then alternating those backups.
I think a lot of the backups...
It feels like they're just trying stuff to see if it works, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think that's actually a bad thing, to be honest. The backups, to me, it feels less like they're half-baked and more like they want to try a lot of new names. Not that every name on these backups are new, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are fresh names in DC that I don't recognize. And I feel like, there's probably a sort of like, let's try some different things, let different writers and artists try different stories. And some of them work better than others. Some of them feel a bit extraneous. The problem is, though, is if you don't put them on a Batman book like this as backups, then how many people are going to read them? Is kind of the long-standing problem that we have.
And that's what I'm saying. They're just throwing stuff up against the wall. And we'll get there.
There's probably some backups more than others that are inherently more sellable as titles. Like, the second one in this is the name of the story is Batgirls. That book probably sells just based on its own name. No matter what team you stick on it, you can stick, someone with no experience at DC Comics whatsoever. But you say, all right, we're putting out a Batgirls book for Future State. That probably sells as a 2-issue mini.
It maybe does. Batgirl wasn't really selling that well beforehand, though, so I'm not sure if that's as true as it once was. But again, that's just like an ongoing problem we've had across the board, particularly at DC, where you have to slap everything on a Batman book, or to a lesser extent some of the other big characters. But that's I don't know. It's I feel like doing a bunch of backups and seeing, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, though. Like I don't know what the alternative to that is. Like, do you want them to try things internally and just not let things see the light of day if they don't work?
That's kind of what the editorial process is for, right?
I just don't want to spend $8 on something that I don't like and it feels a waste of my time. That's all.
Well, that's a more critique of just the anthology decision.
No, I know, but a lot of this Future State stuff, I feel like, especially after, and it's just because this issue of Batman, and then when we get to Superman, it feels so backloaded that I'd rather have just had the main story, and then if they want to do an anthology, but like you said, that's not going to sell. So how are they going to do it? And I understand that, but I guess it just comes down to disappointment, because I want all the backups to be like the Outsiders level, where like, hey, this is something fun and people can latch onto these characters. versus the ones that I read this week that I'm just kind of like, okay, well, I could have been reading something else in the time that I spent for this. Especially this week, I'm just a little cranky because
I get it. I think
I broke my own rule of going, I'm not going to read all of these. And then as I'm looking at them, I'm like, I guess I'm reading them all.
And now you're like, shouldn't have read all of them.
I shouldn't have, because then I ran out of time to read stuff that I kind of wanted to read and had to rush through, So, and that's just this week. I've learned my lesson, and I just wish, like, hey, maybe I didn't need to read all the Superman ones, I
think just in a broad strokes, looking at the week as a whole, not to spoil too much as we go forward, I think I enjoyed the Superman backups more than I do in this Batman book, for example. But again, I think the key difference that Matt was getting at is the level of quality between the main story and then the backups is still pretty significant.
Yeah, I'm going to try to put some positive spins and arguments into this, because I feel like if I let you two just go right now, this is just going to be a miserable negative discussion. So I'm trying to make sure there's a voice going against that for the people listening.
Yeah, and I get that. Let's talk about how great the next Batman was.
Well, yeah, because this has went really down a path rather than staying focused on the story at hand, which makes the one that's cut up for YouTube going to be really weird and not very focused at all. No, next Batman, the main story here, he's investigating a murder. 2 culprits have murdered someone, and a lot of the main story here is action. It's him running from the magistrate police force. It's and it's a really well drawn stuff. Again, the fact that the art's disappointing compared to the first issue does not take away from the fact that it's very pretty. And this one,
3 pages in particular that stand out, where the first page is all the horizontal panels. There's like 5 or 6, and then you have 6 vertical panels, and then you have a third page of when Batman's running away. I think that's the bit that leads into the moment from which Dark Knight was it? Dark Knight.
Rises?
That moment was it Rises?
You're thinking of when he's looking down the alleyway and it's is he there?
Yeah, that Rises. I'm forgetting which one it is, but I'm like, oh yeah, okay, we're doing that here now.
Yeah. And the coloring the colorist is different, so it has a different feel to it, but the color palette is definitely the same. They're trying to match what colors are being used.
It's the same colors, they're just not as dark, is the big takeaway I've seen because I flicked back and compared between them.
Yeah. But it's maybe the same world is the point I'm making, though.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and we get more of Lucius's wife with the mayor, the whole hunting down the masks.
The mayor with an eye patch, cool look.
Yes.
That's like, the guy I was talking about before in I think that's in that issue of Detective that I read last week for the Patreon book, and I mentioned how there was the guy running for mayor with the eye patch.
Right.
This guy.
Yeah, I don't remember this at all, but sure, I'll take your word for it.
It was a whole thing in that issue last week. It's fine.
Yeah. But anyways, what I like about this too is like it feels like year one, with this Batman, because he's making big mistakes, right? He kind of lets himself get cornered.
I mean, the fact that
the police force, which is different than the peacekeepers that we've seen, right?
Yeah, the fact that the next scene is him in a shipping container, like with his wound, it is very year one of him, like nursing. He's like, oh shit, I let the cops get to him. That's a big moment in Batman year one.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't take them all by myself. I need to get away from here, and that's where he gets clipped. And he's talking about how his suit has enough compression to keep the blood flow, but he's going to need to get help. And he starts talking to who I'm assuming is like his Alfred, who almost has seeming like a Russian accent, just for some of the dialogue choices here, which is interesting. But yeah, I really like how flawed, and it's revealed who this Batman is. We finally see without the mask, which is anticlimactic for us, as tapped in as we are, but still a good moment.
I think it helps that it's not actually meant to be a big, huge moment. It's not like a big, shocking reveal. It's more of a downbeat kind of personal moment.
Yeah, this is when he's bleeding inside the shipping container, and he has the mask off. We don't even see him take it off. No. When we cut there, he has it off, and don't know, his face in shadow for the first few panels where we see it, and we have a reveal with the lighting, so to speak.
Yeah, but it's very low key.
It isn't treated like a big. Yeah, it's not treated like a big. Oh, you didn't see this coming moment.
The low-key reveal.
No.
So yeah, we have like because the Gotham police force are basically working for the magistrate, and we basically
it says that they're like a private police force at this point. So like they've been Gotham PD's been privatized, which is like the worst case scenario.
And some of
they were already corrupt.
And some of the detectives are clearly against this and don't like where this is all leading. But they get a window where Batman's going because they really track his comms or whatever. Batman tracks down these two culprits, gets into a fight with them, and very quickly one of them yells stop and unmasks. And it turns out to be this married couple who killed who they killed because he murdered their daughter. So it adds this kind of like dark kind of like sense of justice, this empathy to what they've done. It's not just a clear-cut case of two thugs murdered someone in cold blood, or whatever. There's something more to it. Right. And this Batman clearly differentiate himself from Bruce. Even sort of questions, or the way he narrates, he's like, "Yeah, I believe the guilty deserve to get what they get." Like his instinct isn't immediately to, "Oh, I'm taking you in for murder." And maybe that's what he'd ultimately decide to do. He doesn't get a chance to, though, because of course the cliffhanger is very quickly approaching, which is the cop showing up to take him on.
And that's what gets me too, is like under normal circumstances, if this police state wasn't taking over Gotham, maybe he would have. But the fact, like, to him, they're no better than what else was going on. That the justice in the hands of these people is better than the justice of the magistrate. That's the vibe I was getting anyways from it. So
yeah, it definitely sounds like we're in a very shades of grey Gotham right now, where there's not a lot of good, and this is at least there's more of a sense of justice in what they've done for the daughter than anything that's going on with the system. Right. So I mean, whether or not he has a harsh no killing rule like we think of as Batman, that's something I think we'll discover maybe. It definitely seems like he doesn't. It seems like he's not a brutal killer, though. It doesn't seem like he's going to have his way to kill anyone. But if he lets this slide, for example, as maybe an interesting character beat that'll differentiate him from, Bruce.
Well, and we also get his mom talking about what the masks have done to her family, and about how the Fox tech is kind of what is propping up the magistrate, and all this different technology, and they came to her because the law, as it's written constitutionally, wouldn't hold up, in that she's not against the law for what it stands for, but how it's being enacted. So that's her with the mayor, and they hint of what happened to her daughter that the masks are involved with. So that added another wrinkle. Like what happened to Tam so bad that it caused her mom to do this, her dad to side with what seems like the magistrate, and then her brother to take up the mantle of Batman.
Yeah, it definitely seems
I like that.
A plot beat we're going to be getting to in this story. Sure. Or at the very least heavily teased so the other series that's coming can tackle it.
Yeah.
I like this though. I think this hunting down. I mean, all of its action, and it looks very good. But I think this the idea of this just not being a couple of bad guys, as it were, and being something a little bit more out of like a sort of revenge movie kind of thing. Was certainly a bit more interesting. So
yeah.
Probably didn't like it as much as the first chapter, but I don't know how much of that is the art and how much of that is
It's still good. I still like the next Batman.
This main story is still really solid, and when we get to the individual ratings, it's still reasonably high. Just probably not as high as the first issue, mostly because of the art.
Yeah. Well, I think we're pretty much there, unless there's any other points people want to make about this story.
Just I read Nightwing before I read this one, and I was very confused by this couple. I'm like, are they the same couple as in Nightwing?
Oh, right. No, I read this first, so never crossed my mind. Matt, what are you rating this first story then?
I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Connor?
I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, I was thinking straight 8 as well. So that's the first story. We will rate as a whole at the end, as we've been doing with these more anthology books, especially with these ones that have got, like, the backups are basically full-size stories. Because like the first issue, this is 3 20-page stories, except you're not getting part 2 of the backups from last issue, you're getting part 1s of another set, and then you're getting part 2s in issue 3 of the first set and issue 4 of this set. It makes sense in your head if you've wrapped your head around it, but
No, it makes sense. I just well, we'll get there.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the Batgirl story, which naturally was one of these stories that I was the most excited for, just based on it's Cass and it's Steph and it's a Batgirl story. Really curious to see what this is going to end up being.
Yeah, I have a pretty major critique immediately in that I didn't like know, oh, this is the Batgirl story. I'd forgotten what was in the issue. I just kind of started reading it, and there's a character revealed pretty early on, like a couple of pages in, that if I hadn't read one of the other books last week, I would not have known who this was for pages. And that's kind of unforgivable.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Here's my biggest critique with this one. It's way overwritten.
Oh yeah, far too many words. That's for sure.
Especially when you're dealing with Cass, whose main character point is she doesn't speak a whole lot. Well, and when she does, you listen, right?
I'll make 2 points on that. One, I think it's fair to accept that years in the future she speaks more fluent, right? I think that's a fair point to make, is that she wouldn't still be speaking the same broken English she does now. Two, I will say that she doesn't actually have that much dialogue. I mean, don't get me wrong, the bubbles she does have are far more wordy than she normally does. It does stick out. But when she meets Steph, like, most of those bubbles for like 4 pages are just Steph monologuing for constant.
Yeah.
And so, like, did you guys get that it was Steph right away, or just because you knew it was Batgirls? Maybe
I knew it from her because of the one before.
Yeah, the Robin book last week.
Yeah, because of the eye patch, and you were like, oh, okay.
But there's no signifier to me, like, so Steph talks, right? But here it's just like a Tarantino character that does not stop talking.
She doesn't feel like Steph. There's not a lot of Steph's character there.
Not at all. And it's just like, if you're gonna do a stylistic thing of she's talking this much, then and you're doing a Batgirls thing, I would have leaned into Cass not talking as much, right? And just let her keep talking and keep talking. And instead, you get this overwritten where I felt like Connor reading a Bendis book. I would turn the page and see all the bubbles and go, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I would get annoyed. And like, this is a story I feel like I should like, because I like all these characters. And why are all these heroes locked up in this prison? Like, why is Jimmy Olsen there? Why is Beast Boy there? Were they in Gotham when this all went down?
Yeah, well, let me set up some context here. So the main gist of this story is that Arkham here, there's Arkham, isn't it? Is it Arkham?
Sure.
It may actually not be Arkham, but
no, it just says the magistrate's detention facility.
Yeah, so it's their place. So when Cass is interested at the start, you see that a lot of the detainees on one side are villains and the other side are actually heroes. So Beast Boy's there and some other characters. But the purpose of this story is that Cass is trying to get. She basically has started to believe the rumor that Batman is really alive, and she believes that he's trapped down below. There's actually more on this in Catwoman later, which we'll talk about when we get to that book. But she wants to get below to the basement levels where she believes Batman is being kept. And it turns out, we actually see later on that Babs is also down there. Or, I mean, I say also, we don't know for sure that Bruce is there yet, but Babs definitely is. So
yeah.
And the vibe that I got cutting to the end is that she's the one that sent out the signal suggesting that Batman's alive, but not necessarily Batman, right?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because we do know that Bruce is alive too. So
yeah.
I don't know. I just took it as because it looks like she's hooked into all these cables and stuff, and her being Oracle, I feel like that was her reaching out for help, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can buy that she's not necessarily knowing that Bruce is alive, and it's more she's trying to keep the spirit of the bat alive to give people hope or something like that. I can totally buy that.
That's what I took it as, and
But the big conceit of the issue, though, is that when Cass gets thrown in a cell with Steph, like, the way they talk about her, it's like she's turned bad, and she's now like the leader of all the criminal gangs in the prison. We find out later that she's actually just kind of a double agent, and it's all...
That felt to me like an excuse to, this is why she was written out of character and terrible all this. She was like, it's fine, just write it all away because she's undercover.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't buy it.
When I got to the reveal that this was all just undercover because she had to get close so they could eventually do whatever, I was kind of like, okay, so you haven't completely character assassinated her, I suppose. That's nice, but I still didn't really enjoy reading the first half of this issue because I was looking forward to Steph and Steph being Steph, and she just was.
You got none of that.
Yeah, no, I got some hard-edged character who.
And I say, unless you know that this is Steph, you would have no idea because. So she's introduced, and it's a big hey, look, it's me, kind of, it goes, oh, nothing to say to your old friend. It's like you're supposed to immediately know who this is, and then 2 pages after that, you have once a Batgirl, always a Batgirl, right? And you're like, that could maybe give it away, but it's not even. Again, if you didn't think this was Steph, it's not 100% clear because it could be just on that Cass, right?
Right.
It's not until a full 6 or 7 pages after that reveal where Cass actually says spoiler, and then and then it cuts to her as like, to definitively kind of place it as that character, and that's insane. That's like a third of the issue.
The only thing I'll say against that, because I agree pretty much all with everything you just said, except for the fact that the title page is the page before that. So I think the title Batgirls would probably give it to you.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
but the way that it's written, though, I get what Connor's saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Yeah, but because I mean, I have to admit, I didn't really remember what was coming either. I only remembered that this is a Batgirl story when it revealed Cass. I was like, oh, this is the Batgirl story. I didn't remember it was in this book.
I'd still forgotten that it was a Batgirl's story, and I was just like, oh, it's a Cass story because I'd just completely forgotten.
So y'all didn't read the cover?
No,
you're saying?
I never read the cover.
Never.
I look at the art and then open the book.
Yes.
Stupid me.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the sad part of this is I think conceptually, if you told me, okay, in this future state scenario, a bunch of heroes, but most notably including Steph and Cass, are in a prison, Barbara's in the sort of solitary, deep, lockdown state underneath, and it's all about them trying to get to her and prove that Batman's alive to regain hope. On paper, just what I just said sounds amazing to me. I love it. Right. I love it. But they actually had to write Steph as like a hard-edged prison character for some reason, and it just like sucked all the fun out of it.
And she's like the leader.
And when you haven't,
everyone's serving her.
Yeah. Well, also you have how do you say the artist name? Is it Aneki?
I think so.
Sounds right. Yeah.
The art's really good too, and the fact that there's so much dialogue that's just overall like Steph just talking over herself.
Yeah,
getting herself over.
I didn't hate it conceptually, to say. There's a couple of sequences that I think are quite fun. Particularly the sort of montage of Steph going around making sure that or actually, it's Cass going around trying to question all the villains, but because Steph's basically warned everyone not to pick a fight with her, it's kind of this little running gag for a montage where she pushes Killer Croc, for example, and then Croc's about to get angry and punch, and then he goes, "Grr, sorry, I must have lost my balance in your box." So like that was a vaguely amusing little sequence of like scenes. I thought.
Yeah, and that's where the art gets to shine because Steph's not on page talking, so
yes,
yeah,
not all covered up.
So I was reading this morning and I was just like, oh man, this is a lot, and then I'll just say it here too. I was so crunched for time I didn't read the Sirens story, which I'll go back to.
We'll get to that in a minute, but you didn't miss anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the most interested I got in the Steph stuff was when we actually got the flashback, and it was like her actually talking to Nightwing, and them actually trying to like have some sort of plan for the city. And I'm like, you know what? I'd much rather read like Nightwing leading all the Bat characters in the city than I would this weird prison version of Steph. But whatever.
Yeah.
Tis what it tis. So yeah, it reveals Babs is down below, hooked up to computers. And it just kind of ends with all the various prisoners who they've basically Steph and Cass have arranged for them to cause a distraction for Cass to go down and try to get to the basement level. So it ends with the big riot starting. So it's kind of really murky read. I don't think it's the worst thing ever, but it is definitely overwritten. The dialogue is far too bulky.
It's not the worst thing ever, but I also, had I not already read a whole bunch of stuff this week, I think I would have been okay. So again, mostly it's me being cranky because there's just so much.
I think,
but it's also not like I expect more also out of Vita Ayala because most of the stuff I've read from them I like.
Yeah.
And so when I saw who was attached to this, when I got to the credit page, I was like, this does not feel like anything I've read from. And that's what I mean about them just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. You know what I mean? Like this, it's almost to me like it wasn't like Vita Ayala was like, hey, I have an idea for a Batgirl story in the future state stuff. It was kind of like, hey, do you think you could do the story?
Like, this is your assignment. Turn it in 3 weeks, please.
I've never written Steph before, but I'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
Then it just turns into,
because their Dead Man mini was really good when that came out.
Yeah.
So
I like and most of the anthology stories and like annuals or just the smaller stuff like the backups I've read.
Some of the stuff in the metal tie-ins, right?
Yeah, like
I think,
and it's fine. It's not indicative of this, and so I just thought like this is just it feels off.
When we get to issue 4 of this of Next Batman, because obviously I'm getting it for Next Batman itself, I'll probably read part 2 of this just because I'm curious as to how the story actually ends up, even though it's not the greatest read. I'm not sure I'm going to say the same about the next one when we get to it, but
I will be particularly annoyed with issue 4 of this book because issue 1 I was very happy with. I very much loved 2/3 of it. This issue, I'm like, okay, I only really like one story. The other 2, not so much. And I'm a bit annoyed that I had to spend, however much it was, the triple price, on this. And I'm like, right, okay, but I didn't know any better. It was a risk. Issue 3, I'm going to be happy to buy because I know I'm safe with 2/3 of it. Issue 4 is really frustrating because I have to spend the full price to finish off just that one main story. And I have to. I can't not.
Oh, that said, I'm curious to see where this one goes. Like, again, it's not a total wash. A lot of it annoyed me in the way that the dialogue was presented. But the story that's being told, I don't hate.
Yeah, and I think part 2 might benefit as well because we've already done all the prison stuff with Steph. Part 2 may not have that as being a heavy feature.
And I was wondering where Babs was in all of this because I had a low-key worry, like she's working with the magistrate for whatever reason at this point. Because as I read through these, you're checking off Bat characters that could be allied there, and we'll get more on that with Nightwing. At least I think it was Nightwing. It's been a long week. And so Babs was one of the ones that was noticeably absent. So to see how she's involved in this it adds a layer that keeps me interested, at least.
I get it. I think for me, this was just too badly written that I've already written off the second part. I don't want to read it anymore. Even if the story presenting the ideas is solid, I don't have any desire to actually read it. I'll just hear from whichever of you guys ends up reading it. What happens with Babs, I guess.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the Batgirl story. I wish I was more positive, but it wasn't really. I mean, it had the Batgirl characters in it technically, but one was unconscious, one was like a super weird prison boss version, and there's not really any Batgirling to speak of. So,
have you guys ever watched Venture Brothers?
Nah, sorry,
no.
So there's an episode where the arch villain, their arch nemesis, ends up in prison, and the 2 boys get sent to prison too, and he's talking like he runs the place, but he doesn't. And those were the vibes. I was getting Monarch vibes from Cass, and it just, it was just weird. So.
All right, Matt, what are you rating the Batgirl story?
I'm gonna give this one a 5.
Connor?
I'm gonna give it a 3. I think it would have been a 4 just for being so overwritten, but the not naming Steph for so long drops it a whole point.
I want to agree with Matt and go with the 5 and go right down the middle. Disappointing
I really
for
like
sure.
art. I don't want to lose that.
Yeah,
art, great.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing ever. I want to reiterate that it's just really disappointing given what it could be and what it should be. So, that's the Batgirl story. So there's a Gotham City Siren story, part 1 here at the end. Paula Sevenbergen writing with Rob Haynes on the breakdowns, and then Lupacino on the pencils. That's interesting. Lupacino, not
it. This is. You can tell this isn't entirely Lupacino because it's easily the weakest work I've seen.
And that's why I was going to get back to it. But if I'm not missing, I mean, it's not like I won't own it because
I kind of stopped reading halfway through. I found myself just scrolling, page. Yeah, I wasn't actually reading it anymore because I was just checked out.
Well, no need to call me a hero, everyone, but I did struggle on through and finish the whole thing. And
do you have anything insightful to say about it?
Well, kind of. My biggest takeaway from this story, which is basically Catwoman and Ivy, and Catwoman feels nothing like Catwoman in her own book. In the Future State book that we got this week.
That's a
So
shame.
that first and foremost, but essentially they found a robot because they're trying to take down this Dilton, this I guess Elon Musk-esque villain or whatever he is, and they've found this robot that he built, but she kind of wants to go against him, and we get a flashback to how they found her halfway through, but she's already kind of there at the start of the issue or the start of the story. And honestly, the biggest takeaway, because they set up that this robot was kind of awake doing stuff for like a week before they found her when they broke into this guy's place, and the biggest thing is that she binge watched a bunch of TV shows, so there's a lot of awkward TV references sprinkled throughout this issue. There's a reference to shows that I like, there's a reference to shows that I've not watched, but even the ones that I liked, it just kind of felt weird. Like, oh, this is like a character on The Shield. And it's a great show, but from a writing perspective, this feels really clunky.
It's like when they're all sat there drinking the cocktails, and one of them's like, "This is just like Sex in the City." I'm like,
and that comes back because when you get the flashback later when they found her, before they go in the room where they find her, like, do you hear the Sex in the City theme? Yeah, I think so. And then they go in and like the robot's sitting there watching Sex in the City. It's really weird.
I dodged a bullet on this one, didn't I?
it's not good, Matt.
Yeah, the whole, it's like a really, it's not, I feel really cruel calling it like a weird fan fiction thing, but it's so based on referencing other material, it feels really kind of amateur in what it's doing. Like, it's instead of just relying on its own story, it's, I don't know. I got very little out of this, and a lot they got like a nightclub that's been developed in Gotham that's run by Sam Bradley, and it's a nightclub where both heroes and villains go because it's basically shit for everyone in Future State, so they all just unwind and go to the same nightclub together. Even that concept feels like this is just weird fan fiction. This is like something that belongs on Tumblr. This is not a comic book.
Which tells me Pete has spent time on Tumblr, if he knows what belongs there or not.
How dare you? Maybe I've just heard evidence of these Tumblr ongoings.
I'm not gonna judge if that's what you're into. Cool, just stuff starts to make sense now.
I really dislike this line of thinking that Matt has brought to the table. So
logically it makes sense, and he's having a hard time undoing that logic.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the issue, who is it that bursts out? Is it the magistrate police force or whatever? But they bust in and shoot Catwoman. She's lying on the dance floor bleeding out.
Oh, great.
And that's a cliffhanger. Oh, Sam Bradley gets shot multiple times in the back, so he's probably dead.
And he's just a human. So, like, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's just Catwoman, to be fair.
Yeah, Catwoman's got,
But she only takes one bullet, whereas Slam takes at least two.
Yes. At least two, maybe three. There's three blams.
Blam, blam, blam.
Well, yeah, that's 3 gunshots, though. Not necessarily 3 hits.
True.
But it could be. It's hard to tell, honestly.
Either way. I'm glad I skipped this.
Yeah, I do not recommend this Siren story. And I'm not like a big like Gotham City Sirens like person anyway.
Well, let's be honest, I was the one probably most likely to enjoy this.
Well, I saw Lou Pacino's name attached, and that's why I was like, and then I was just running out of time. I'm like, I'm just gonna skip it, and now it seems like
I wish I did. If all the things I wish I'd said, you know what, I'll just stop here and not read this last backup. This is the one I wish I stopped and didn't read.
Yeah.
That said, at least that being so bad in that unique way give me something to talk about.
I was trying to see because this writer, I was like, maybe they are like a fan fiction writer. Yeah, because there are lots of people who would do that and get published, right? So I googled it, found a Twitter, and it's like, okay, TV writer, contributor / former editor of Mads magazine, and no real talk about comics. Recent comic stuff is just retweeting about this issue. So I stuck her in IMDb. She has 1 credit as a TV writer, and it is for an episode of Stargirl, Shiv Part 2, which I don't remember being a bad episode.
No, it was a fine episode. But I mean, TV's written in teams. It's a bit more.
It is. But I think it was notable that, okay, that's her credit there. I'm like, okay, so it's not like she's a bad writer entirely. But this story was.
Maybe just filling out the comic book format.
Yeah, like technically I finished it, but I don't feel like I did because I got to the end, but there was at least like 3 or 4, 5, 6 pages maybe where I wasn't really reading it. I was just kind of not taking it in. I was just kind of staring at the page for 15, 20 seconds and then going to the next one. And I just kind of I noticed I was doing that after a while. I was like, well, there's only like 3 pages left. Might as well finish it.
Yeah, I cannot recommend. And yeah, the art's kind of like it's not bad art. It's just it's not. I mean, it's not up to the Al Pacino standard.
As I thumb through the pages, the art looks nice. You know, I don't know if it goes storytellingly wise. I didn't have any context. You know, but just from looking at it, it doesn't look. You know, it's not egregious.
No, it's not.
No, it's never bad. It's lacking the flair and flourish that Lupacino's work usually has.
Honestly, I think I'm so hesitant talking about the art in a weird way because I hate the design of these versions of the characters so much that I think I'm letting that color the actual quality of the art because I'm looking at because Catwoman's got these these shades on. She's wearing this stupid weird top that's got a midriff, and Poison Ivy's got like a tank top on, like a mesh tank top. I don't know. The whole thing's
the Poison Ivy design. I was kind of like that weird flex, but okay.
Catwoman's all weird because the top I think that is the recent outfit that she got given in her own book based off of the way the collar is.
Yeah, but it's missing.
But it's just it's just cut off as it's just turned into a crop top basically.
But I don't know. It feels kind of I don't know Hot Topic designs of the sirens or something.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting from it. All right, I'm going to stop shitting on this now. We've got more books to talk about. You didn't read it, Matt. Connor, do you want to give it a...
I give it a 3.
Yeah, I'll give it a 4 because the art's solid enough. But yeah, the constant referencing of stuff, and I don't know, it really felt fan fiction the way it was like, oh, that's just all these weird concepts that I feel like I'd read about on Twitter rather than actually wanting to see them done as a serious attempt in a comic book. With very little to justify them. So rating the book as a whole though, and I think Matt can still do that even though he's only rating for 2 stories.
Yeah, and this is I just averaged mine out based off my scores.
Sure.
And I can't give this book a 4, which is what it would necessitate, because I did like the first story so much, and the second story, the art is fine. So I'm just gonna give the book a 6.5, and that's the next Batman's doing a lot of the heavy lifting there.
Yeah, you could have one be more weighted if you liked it enough, because I think if you like something a lot, it outweighs how much you dislike something else.
Wait till we get to Superman Worlds at War, because that'll factor significantly in.
Okay, yes, we'll talk about that. Connor?
I'm gonna give it a 6, I think, because I like the first story quite a lot. The other two, I think I give the first one an 8.5, and the other two are 3, both 3s. I've no idea what that averages out to, but the first story is, quote unquote, the main story. It's the one the issue is named after. It's what the appeal, the main draw is. So I'm giving it extra weighting for that as well. So yeah, I'll give it the 6. Yeah,
I'll give it the 6 as well. Again, first story's really, really good. And then, everything we just said about the other 2. Let's move on. Let's not dwell on the bad things. Let's move on to other books. Right. Future State, Superman, Worlds of War, issue 1. You'll notice I'm not saying creators for some of these books that have 10 creators on them. We'll just say them as we go through them.
4 stories in this issue, I think.
Yeah, because this is not 3 20-page stories. This is 1 20-page story, and then I don't know how it's divvied up, but they're all a bit shorter, obviously. The rest of them.
They seem to read a lot quicker than the Batman ones.
Yeah,
I'll give them that.
I think it was like a 10 and 2 15s. I want to say, or something like that.
Could be. I'll check as we go through.
I wish this Philip Kennedy Johnson story was longer, and we didn't have 3 backups.
I am suddenly very optimistic about Philip Kennedy Johnson taking over Superman in action.
Yeah, well, that's the key point here. Yes, Philip Kennedy Johnson, who wrote the main story in this, is going to be the writer on both Superman and Action Comics come March.
Right. And Jan art doesn't hurt.
Of course not.
It never does. The biggest problem I have with Janen's art in this issue is that we don't get enough of his Superman at the end, the War World Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think I was pleasantly surprised at how much this was not just because I was kind of went into this, it's going to be some sort of Gladiator Superman story on War World, whatever. I think I'm pleasantly surprised that that's not what this is. I mean, that's technically going on as a sort of framing device, but the actual main story here is about this young girl who goes to Smallville, which has become like a really crappy tourist attraction because it's the birthplace of Superman.
It's a mecca.
Place.
The home place, yes.
Yeah.
And she goes to this meeting where people are sharing their stories about where they think Superman is, because most people will believe he's dead. Because keep in mind, this is post-John shrinking down Metropolis, which people seem to have a very sort of villainous opinion of whenever they talk about it.
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
here's
the thing. This story, and this is why it probably appeals to us, and certainly why it appeals to Matt, I think, is this is essentially someone arguing for what makes Superman Superman, when everyone else, when the other people at this meeting are saying, no, Superman is Superman and he wins the fights he wins because he is stronger, because he has superpowers. And this girl's saying, no, that's not what makes him Superman. And it's accentuated at the end of the story where she stands up and says, because they're all sharing stories of how Superman saved them, and she stands up and says, no, Superman didn't save me, Clark Kent did. And, she walks away at that point.
So which tells me what I need to know about Philip Kennedy Johnson, which is something that, if I can just base it off of the story, is he believes that Superman is Clark Kent, right? Like, because there's always that theory that Clark Kent is the disguise that Superman puts on, right? And that he's always Superman. But I never agreed with that. I always felt like he is Clark Kent through and through, and like the Clark that he is in Smallville is who he is regardless. And here, that's
a key point.
Yeah,
as I would always argue, there's three, and the real one is the Clark from Smallville, and then the Clark in the Daily Planet who's disguising himself is a bit more phony.
Right, but
it's a bit exaggerated.
But people even would suggest that the Smallville Clark is a disguise because he's an alien first, which that idea is something that while he is from Krypton, he was raised by the Kents, right? And so he is the way he is, not because of his powers, but because of his upbringing. That's something that's
no more a disguise than someone who's in the closet, not revealing, not coming out yet.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I always refute, is like, no, that's just who he is, right? And he has to put on that disguise, like you guys are saying, in Metropolis, because he's playing a part of, of all of that. So
but bumbling Clark Kent is definitely a disguise.
Yeah. So, but through here, it's no, Clark Kent or Superman is Clark Kent, and that's who saved me, not Superman. It's the man in Superman. But what's really cool is we get Janin drawing all of these stories of Superman having these great deeds. And it was reminding me
best of both worlds for the issue, isn't it? Where we've got all the great action, all the alien invasion stuff. We get to see, some zombies. We get to see Superman doing all the cool shit that we like to see Superman do because, that's fun stuff to read in comics.
Yeah.
But also get the point of, no, this is what Superman really is.
Yeah, and all the stories, they serve this purpose where you've got all these different narration boxes from all these different kids who are teenagers or whoever, who are telling these stories. And they basically start theorizing various things about, where he's met. And they all think he's dead, pretty much, but they have different theories as to how he died. One of them straight up says that they think that other Kryptonians survived who are not good people, are going to eventually come and rule the planet, and because Superman's not here anymore to stop them, that's inevitable. So even that's a great page of all these various like imaginary Kryptonians that this kid's imagining are really good. And that's when this main kid sort of like gets upset and says, what Superman taught us about hope, where's your hope? You're all just assuming he's dead. But then this one kid's got a really interesting idea where he thinks Superman's ascended, almost Star Trek higher being style, where now he's in the wind. Superman's in the wind. Yeah,
they have a theory that Superman is always, is reborn essentially on every world that needs a Superman, and he appeared as human for us because we're a human world, but on other worlds he's very alien. But he is to them what he is to us. And
which again,
that was a great 2-page spread as well.
Yeah, which again upsets the main character because she says, "No, you're treating this like a crappy mecha or whatever. You're treating him like this religious figure. He's a man." Again, coming back to that point, Superman didn't save me, Clark Kent did. So I think this is really promising for the themes and even just the tone of how Johnson's going to write Superman.
It felt like a mission statement as to this is what he believes Superman is and what we can expect of his book going forward, in the sense that I believe there will be a lot of big bombastic action and set pieces and things, because it's a comic, it's a Superman comic. Of course, there's going to be stuff like that.
Right.
But he's never going to forget. No, this is what Superman is, and that's always going to be the underlying point. And it felt like a mission statement to me. This did.
Yeah. So there's a lot of in this one story. I feel like it distills the Tom King, the digital one that just got released last summer, the Up in the Sky, is of what Superman means to different people. And that was a more like typical Tom King, where some stuff feels very dreamlike and not tied down to what's actually going on. With this, though, because we're seeing it through the eyes of regular people that Superman has impacted, it almost drove that point home better, to me at least, because that was the one thing in the Tom King story that I really appreciated, was, what Superman means through different, not through different eyes, but different viewpoints. And here it's just like the idea, like, no, he gets reborn, and he was here for us when we needed him, and all of us just hearing that, like, that's something I never thought of when it came to Superman.
It's still like an interesting idea. Like, obviously, Matt, your mic's going. Obviously, in this, it goes against the idea of Superman just being a man, and obviously I like that more. But I like this idea of, what if Superman reincarnated on every world that needed a Superman?
I like the idea of these people theorizing this. I like these people all having their different opinions and beliefs, and the idea that Superman's become such a mythical figure to them that they all have their own, and they've all developed their own ideas and understandings of what he might or may not represent or be. The idea that they can't just accept that he's just a being trying to do his best, and that's all he ever has been.
Right, and that's not his fault, right? It's because he is so good at what he does, people don't believe him for his word, if that makes sense. Like, Superman, to me, is always like, I'm just a guy doing my job, right? He's like a firefighter that's like, no need to thank me. I'm just glad I was here. And, here, these people are putting almost religious aspects onto him, almost like he's a god.
Completely mythologized him, yeah.
Yeah, and so for this one girl to be like, no, guys, this is what he is to me. Like, that's cool, that's what he is for you, but to me, he's Clark Kent. And the fact that it also plays with, everyone knows who he is now, right? But they're still coming up with these different ideas because he just left, because Clark Kent wouldn't just leave us. So there's that there too. But with her, it's...
Joe is so funny about this. Is that, I hate to bring up Zack Snyder, right? But what's so funny about this?
I was just getting there.
But what's so funny about this is you look at the imagery in Batman v Superman, all the religious motifs and and all the people trying to touch him and all that. And this issue makes the same essential point that regular human beings, if something's too big a concept for them, they'll start to turn into religious ideas. They'll start to turn to that sort of way of thinking.
They literally have shrines to him here.
But this does it in a way that reinforces what Superman actually is to us as the reader, what he means to the world, and has a character who's sticking up for what Superman actually is. So this doesn't leave you with that horrible taste in your mouth. I mean, don't get me wrong, the fact that Superman's not in the scene looking like he wants to kill himself at the thought of all these people touching him, it does help, but...
Right. Well, and that's what I was going to, and not to keep going on, it's because Johnson understands Superman as a concept, whereas Zack Snyder does not.
Yeah, well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the concept of looking at Superman through the lens of religious iconography and people looking at him and seeing him that way is actually a valid viewpoint to take and explore with what Superman is to the world. It's just that you can have a good execution of that idea and you can have a bad execution of that idea.
Right. Well, because
it's something that people do, even with regular people, right? It's something that you can look at near history and go, look at figures and how they have been completely mythologized. I mean, take any your American founding fathers, for example.
Well, I had a discussion with a friend this week about Teddy Roosevelt, right? Like, I know people think that it's weird that like I have a favorite president, but like when I look at what Teddy stood for, I
assume every American does, to be honest with you.
Well, no, I'm weird though. Like the amount I know about Teddy Roosevelt is, not those levels. But I look at Teddy Roosevelt like these people would look at Superman in this, right? As like, at the end of the day, he was just a man, right? He was the most powerful man in the country for 8 years, and there's stories around him, but at the end of the day, he represented different things to different people.
He was a person who made mistakes and
Right.
Did his best choices is what he
Right.
thought, but maybe they weren't always right. But he tried.
And as much as I love the different stories of him and like this, that, and the other, you also have to go and look at the faults there as well. And with here, I feel like, whereas with Snyder seems to only want to focus on those faults because of the story he wanted to tell. Whereas here with Johnson, it's not necessarily about that. It's this girl who I don't think she has a name, right? She's just there.
Sadie, I think.
Okay, Sadie. So the Sadie is just like, no, look, like, you guys are missing the point of he was Clark Kent. Like, you can, yes, he was all these things, but also this. And I feel like we never get introduced to that viewpoint in those. And to me, that's what makes it feel so hollow. Whereas here, it feels like, and again, I'm close to it because it's Superman.
Yeah. My favorite president, by the way, is a Werewolf, which you can buy now from Tim.
As well, you should.
On Comixology. President Werewolf on sale. Anyway, what I was going to say is that, I think this is part of the appeal to me about DC characters. The comparison with Marvel is always that Marvel have more grounded characters. DC has these myths and gods and legends. And I think what works for me about this issue in particular, and in the larger scope of DC, is that, the characters are so big that they ultimately become that to the people in that world. They become these mythological ideas. They become these larger than life, these almost godlike beings. But I think for me, why I appreciate and latch on to someone like Superman or Batman, and obviously they're very different to each other, and that one actually has all these godlike powers and one doesn't. But compared to, say, someone from the more magical side of DC, is because I do like the Superman at his core. It's just a guy trying to do his best. He has all these extra abilities, but he is still valuable. He does make mistakes. He does try to figure out the best thing to do. But there is that humanity there, and that humanity is really important. And I think it's, if nothing else, you always want to remember that people who are making these bigger decisions are just people at the end of the day. Even Superman is just a person, despite what, Eddie in the back go, but he's got powers, and he's got heat vision and super strength and all these things.
It's not that different to what Matt was saying about Roosevelt, in that, yes, he was the most powerful man in the country for 8 years, and Superman, in this context, he was the most powerful person on Earth, but he was still just a person.
Right, he's still just a person, and that's the point of it is, we put these people up on a pedestal, and even at the end, the Sadie girl, she has them on a pedestal, but she feels like everyone's kind of missing the point, right? And I want to know more of her stories. Like, I'm definitely into this, I'm more into this side of things than the Superman Gladiator, which seems to break with my self-parody, right?
Well, this is the thing. We have a couple of pages of Superman Gladiator at the end, which is essentially there to prove the point of what Sadie's saying, because this is, as they put it, Superman, he's old and he's powerless, but it doesn't matter. He's still there with his shield and sword, and he's we're gonna make it home. We're gonna be all right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We only get a few pages of actual Superman. So one, it shows where he is right now, that he's not dead. He's here.
Nope. He's on World.
In those couple of pages, he's trying to protect someone who's in a cage with him. The other person who's going into the combat with him, he's trying to protect. He's saying, hey, stay behind me. We'll get through this. He's trying to reassure them. And obviously these pages look great.
So good.
And it sets up a status quo, because all the backups are all basically set around the status quo of War World and Superman being there and what else is going on in War World. So, if anything, I'm sad that this is only a 2-parter and not a 4-parter like next Batman, because I
would be a lot more disappointed if we didn't have ongoing books. Coming up right after.
This completely set aside any doubts that I had about Philip Kennedy Johnson taking over both books, because I feel like there is going to be a balance here with what we had, what Superman represents on Earth versus what he's doing on Warworld. That, yes, they're tied, but they do feel two different ways. So
I'm still a little disappointed that he's on both books, just for the sake of variety, but also it's very clearly he knows what he's doing. So it's I'm less mad than I was when Bendis was on both. Right.
So going in when Bendis was taking over, I was very into it. But even after the Man of Steel mini, I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be Bendis' Superman, which felt like Bendis' Superman. Here, I feel like Philip Kennedy Johnson is a lifelong Superman fan, and going like, this is the story I've wanted to tell. And who knows if after, it's always, that thing they say about musicians, you have your whole life to write your first album and then, 2 years to write the second one. So who knows what the second arc's going to be like, right? But judging based off of this is someone that I definitely want to see them take on Superman because it feels like it's special to them,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I have no notions about the first arc, second arc, anything like that. All this says to me is that he's got a good voice for the spectacle and the idea of like how big Superman's supposed to feel. He understands the character, and it was a really enjoyable read. So it ticks all the boxes for wanting to read more.
So also, friend of the show, Talking Superman, was going through non-DC trades that he's reading, and one of them written by Philip Kennedy Johnson is Kong, God of Skull Island. I was like, how did I not know this thing existed? So
It's like the most Matt book ever.
Yeah, once I get caught up with some of the other stuff I have in my backlog, I'm definitely searching that out because if he cares about Kong as much as he cares about Superman, I am in for a hell of a treat. So,
I mean,
I hope there's no one on Earth that cares about Kong quite as much as they care about Superman. But
it's just in time though, Matt, because Kong's about to get his ass whipped by Godzilla in a couple of months.
No, he's not.
So...
Judging from stuff I've read, he's the babyface. Babyfaces go over, Pete. You know that.
No. They're going to team up against something bigger by the end, but
yes, I know.
Godzilla's winning. Godzilla's winning.
No, Godzilla's Roman Reigns.
How dare you? How
he's getting the artificial push?
I feel like I want to be on Pete's side here because I think Godzilla will win. But you keep talking about him references I don't understand, and I can't. Pete's obviously indignant and upset at that comment, and I feel like I should be as well, but I don't understand it.
Yeah, so
God damn you, Matt.
Just real quick, Roman Reigns was this guy who has all the pieces, real good, but it seemed like he was the chosen one. And just the story that they were telling, it was kind of like Batman, where you're just like, okay, I'm over it. Like it's just everything always Roman Reigns.
Whoa!
And so,
whoa!
Yeah.
Matt, you can't just throw that line. Not everyone feels that way you do about Batman.
No, but in context, I know what Matt makes. I know how he feels about Batman.
No, like because I've seen this a lot around Future State and post Future State. It's like there's just a lot of Batman, and people kind of want to see more. And that was kind of with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was just like always in front of everything, and it didn't feel right.
Well,
right?
yeah, but that was without. Yeah, but Roman Reigns didn't have like, I don't know, being like one of the most established and liked and well developed characters in comic book history behind him.
John Cena. You like that one more, Pete? Or would you rather Roman Reigns?
I like compared to Batman, so I don't think this is a fair thing. The problem isn't the wrestler here. The problem is, well, there is a problem because you're comparing it to Godzilla, which is wrong. But
well, it's not Stone Cold. He's not going to give a hell yeah.
No, he's not. He's a force of nature. He's more like
the Undertaker.
Nah, he's more like the ghost of Macho Man.
Oh well, how dare you, sir?
Martha's Elizabeth.
We're supposed to be getting a trailer soon, and like
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm upset because I'm not going to be able to see it in the theater, so now I have to go buy a sound bar so I can get a proper.
Yeah, but Matt, every other studio has started delaying their movies again till 2022 or the end of this year. So at least this you're going to get.
I mean,
no, I know, but
there are still some claiming they're going to have movies out in July. Well, I mean,
we'll see.
We'll see.
Kong and Godzilla are both ones that you want to see on the biggest screen possible, right? Just because of who they are, Like, I know Connor loves Bond, but I'm perfectly fine with watching the new Bond in my house versus.
I mean,
King Kong versus Godzilla.
I'm perfectly fine with not watching the new Bond.
The new Bond in my house if I have to. If they will just release the goddamn thing for me.
Yeah.
But,
so
yeah.
So anyways, Philip Kennedy Johnson's writing Kong or wrote Kong. He's writing Superman. What's next? Yeah. So.
Oh dear. All right. Rate the first story, Matt.
This was a 9.5.
Connor.
I'm going up there. I'm giving it a 10 because I read this. I was like, damn, I get it.
I feel like I didn't think I was going to come out of this looking like the negative one by giving it a 9, but apparently I'm the most.
I thought Connor was going to go with the 9 because Connor always. That's why I didn't give it the 10.
No, I mean. I obviously didn't think I was going to be on this episode, so I read all my books early. so that I could have thoughts prepared. And I put out a little, meme review of everything. And this was, and I said to you guys, if either of you don't like this, we are having serious words. And that, because this was like, oh no, this is exactly what I want. And maybe it's getting an extra little, point because I haven't really read a proper Superman book in however many years now.
That could be that too.
Yeah. Honestly, Connor's saying this is what I want is like a bad sign for me usually, but luckily this is one.
There's no magic involved.
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Connor's a lot of bad taste. Connor decided to drop WandaVision yesterday, man. I need to review that on my own now because he's been a negative Nancy and doesn't like it.
Real quick side note. I understand with the people going, it's moving too slow, but that's the pacing of the show. That's just what it is. And also,
yes, I want to say, just in my defense, I did not say it was bad.
We're not tangenting here. We're not tangenting. We need to move on. We got a lot of books to talk about. We're not doing this. Connor's a negative Nancy. That's the whole point. All right. Story 2 was the follow-up to Mr. Miracle, which I have to critique a little bit in saying that I don't really feel like it follows on from the last one at all. It's just like the same character again.
Well, it tells you that
following on from where he was, because he boom tubed out at the end of the last issue.
Yes, but I mean that's so like you literally could just start this. He's came through a boom tube and he's here now. That's it. Like
yeah. There's the part where he's confused. Obviously, he doesn't know where he is. It's the mystery of that, and then there's the hints that he hasn't just traveled in space. Presumably, there's been a time jump as well for him that he obviously doesn't know about.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's also this takes place after Superman and Metropolis 2. So whatever happens in that issue happens here after that. So, presumably now we know he gets out of Metropolis somehow.
Yeah, clearly. So
it's just here on War World.
Yeah, it was just kind of a weird start for me. I was like, okay, so it doesn't really feel like it matters anything that happened previously. It's just like another story with the same character. But
which I guess is they might have done intentionally because this is obviously in a completely different book, and they don't want to alienate people who weren't reading that first one.
Yeah. But it just adds an extra layer of confusion though, because then you expect to have to know what happened in the last one. So maybe you either chose or didn't choose to read these backups based on that because you didn't want to buy both or whatever. But anyway, so he is trying to figure out where he is, what's going on, and very quickly discovers that he's in War World because he goes up and finds the arena and runs into Midnighter, who casually mentions something about Superman in Clark specifically. Because obviously Mr. Miracle's not expecting Clark to be around. He thinks he's dead or whatever. But again, it ends very quick where, it doesn't feel like a whole lot happens. He ends up outside the War World and sees the entire fleet of ships. He's given the mission by Midnighter to go and get to a relay or something to like boost the signal to get help. But that's basically the gist of it. I like the art again though. And I do kind of like the idea of the backups being revolved around the War World stuff. Which,
Yeah. I think I still enjoyed this backup. Obviously, it's not as strong as the main story, and but I think it's equally on par with how I felt about this story in the previous Superman issue.
It feels
it's got a nice tone to it, great art,
nice tone. It's an easy read. It flows quite well, which is maybe not true of a lot of the other backups, which is nice. Works well for it at the very least.
I like that it's establishing the continuity of the present. Like, okay, here's Midnighter. We're doing the War World stuff. It just feels like okay, it's doing a lot of world building in its 10 pages without much story.
It does kind of feel like it's not that the backup should necessarily feel like they're must-read material, but it does feel just a little bit short of feeling like it's important, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It
feels like a traditional backup. Like, hey, read this. This is extra.
It's helped by the fact that it's only 10 pages because there are a lot less expectations on it because of that. Whereas, when you've got a 20-page story, I expect a lot more out of it. Whereas a 10-page, you're doing a short thing, you're doing, okay, this is a true backup in the sense of the word. I don't know. In that regard, I'm less angry at it, I guess. I
mean, there's less weighing on this one because the last one basically had to carry that entire Superman issue that we did. Which, by the way, can I just say that I'm happy I like this Superman story because the first Superman and Metropolis I did not like. Superwoman I was a bit admittedly in the minority, but I wasn't really keen on that either. I'm just very glad that Worlds of War turned out to be good.
I'm glad you did too.
Thank you, Matt. I hear Carter. Carter's just awkwardly speaking under us. What?
I said you liked Superman and Wonder Woman well enough.
Oh, true. Yes. I hadn't considered that one. Very correct. You made a very valid point. Good for you. Connor gets a cookie. So.
Oh, wait.
All right.
That was basically the story. Anything else you wanted to add about this one?
No, I got nothing.
Yeah. So I guess we can quickly rate this. I'll even go first for this, but it's a fine 7 out of 10. It's very pretty to look at, flowed really well. Not a lot to the story, but like you say, world building.
Yep.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with the 7. I'm intrigued as to where this is being continued, because it says to be continued. I don't know if it's just in the next issue of this or if it's jumping around again.
I'm sure it'll end this, and then in Superman Metropolis 2, we'll get the end of that story where he jumps to this one.
Yes.
So,
and then issue 2 of this will probably be where the next part of this shows up. So, what are you giving this one, Matt?
I'm gonna go with the 7. I'll agree with you guys.
Cool. So there's a Midnighter story by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, with art by Gleb Melenkov. And this is... Let me remind myself. I've forgotten. I read this.
Just on the team there for a second. Cloonan and Conrad are obviously the writers that taking over Wonder Woman, but
Yes.
I believe they are also the team on the Midnighter backup that's coming in either Superman or Action after the first month.
Yeah, I'm skimming this just now because despite the fact that I read this mere hours before we started recording, I am forgetting entirely what happened in it.
I know people like Midnighter, right? My first introduction to Midnighter came in the Grayson series, where he was kind of a foil to Dick Grayson's agent character. If this is what Midnighter typically is, I don't like it.
I don't hate it. I just don't have any strong feelings on it.
It's
fine.
The most notable thing about this is that some of the guards have big miniguns and they look like big dicks because they're just above the crotch. Very phallic.
I'm pretty sure that was intentional.
Yes.
Yeah. And so just with Midnighter, I know he's meant to be Wildstorm's like Batman character, and he plays off of Apollo, who's the Superman character, and all this stuff. And I just reading this, I lost like interest in it halfway through. And I will say, because I remember last week in one of the issues Connor reviewed, talking about the broken up, staticky dialogue on the radio, and you're like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be written. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to be missing chunks of it.
Mm-hmm.
Here, that was played out exceptionally well. Yeah. Like reading the broken up dialogue over the comms, I was like, oh, okay, that's good.
And I appreciate they even put the sound effects into the lettering bubbles rather than just in the world. It was actually there, and it was in a different font. It was in a different color as well. It was actually in like a bluey gray, which was a very staticky color. I thought it was a really smart lettering choice. Yeah,
there's a voice helping Midnighter get through the building, the space station,
the Trojan guys who we've seen. That's why John bottled up Metropolis because of the stuff going on there, and so it feels like this is a chunk of that, and I don't know.
I thought personally, I thought it was an easy read. I didn't find it very challenging. I thought it's a lot of action, which made it easy just to go through. I thought Melenkow's art was solid enough. I think it is really like scratchy and heavy on the shadows and the inks. It kind of works for this kind of not quite Batman book. Some great colors as well that really pop out, especially when it does the oranges and the glows from the gunshots. Mm-hmm. So I think that made it an easy enough read for me. And then the Apollo reveal was pretty solid. But I just don't care.
We have to explain that. We can't just gloss over beats like that. The whole issue is building him getting up to whoever's running this place, and it turns out to be Apollo. I can't really remember where they are, though, to be honest. That's the point I was trying to get to, but then you guys started talking about art.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where they are.
Yeah, no one can tell me, which is maybe a glaring problem in and of itself that none of us remember.
I think it is Warworld, somewhere on Warworld.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, they're on a space station that's circling Warworld.
Okay.
Yeah, so because that's how he ended up there. He got teleported.
Amazing how little of this I remember, despite the fact that I only read it
and that's part of the problem. And I didn't even realize that was supposed to be Apollo at the end. I mean, it makes sense, But
I wouldn't have known. It's just that it's the only character I know that's associated with Midnighter, so I just assumed it had to be Apollo.
yeah,
I do think that is a badly written reveal, and that there's no no dialogue cue to explain it. I mean, I know just because I know what Apollo looks like, and I recognize the symbol, so I was like, oh, okay.
I know I vaguely remember, but it's vague enough that if you told me this was someone else, I'd have believed you. But it's just a case of, well, there's only one character that I associate with Midnighter, and that's Apollo. So that's the only one that, at least from my layman's knowledge, would have an impact on him for it to be him.
But
so.
I do think they probably could have made that clearer for people who don't. I mean, maybe they've never read anything to do with Midnight, which is quite likely. Let's be honest.
Yes,
it's not like he's had a lot of books published in the last 10 years since the New 52 fold into the Wildstorm. I think he appeared a little bit in the was it the Justice League book with Martian Manhunter?
I don't remember.
There was a book with Martian Manhunter earlier.
Yeah,
I don't remember him being in Justice League United.
It was like Stormwatch, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Stormwatch. I'm thinking of. And then I know you had the Midnighter series by Orlando towards the end of the movie too, but that's about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they could have done better with that.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's just really forgettable. It's mostly action. I don't know. It's kind of like the fact that I generally got to it and went, oh shit, did I read this? Because I don't remember what happened. And I did. I definitely did.
No, I remember reading this because we had to take our dog to the vet and I brought my iPad to read this. And yeah.
So I guess rating this, Matt.
I'll give it a 5.
Connor?
Oh, it's real good, but I don't care about the story that much.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5 as well. It's fine. It's not offensive on any level, but it just don't care for it. I
agree, 5. I just don't care. It doesn't make me care.
Very unlikely to read the Midnighter backups, though. Especially if it's the same team as this.
Yeah.
And not that it's gonna be bad, but just I don't need those.
I think I concur with that. Maybe I'll try the first one once the book starts because again, it's probably not going to be set in this future state world. It'll be set present day. DC
that was the one that was going to have future state Midnighter as a character.
Midnighter, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember that, so it's fair enough. And the last story in the book is a Black Racer story, which I have to admit I don't really know a whole lot about Black Racer. And remembering, or at least that I remember anyway.
The new god embodiment of death. That's all I know about.
Yeah.
So, and she's in like a weird future gladiator rollerball mech style game, I think.
Mech race.
Race.
Yeah.
Which I have to admit, I did pop at that 2-page spread of them in these big mech suits.
It's the best part of this story. And not I think this is a bad story. I just found myself not caring about it.
Yeah. I think the problem with the backups in this, because it's not like they actively pissed me off like one of the ones in the Batman book did. This was more just kind of an apathy of none of these are really sparking interest. I mean, none of them are good enough to... Because your hope is that one of them's going to steal the show, that one of them's going to say, hey, this is going to be great, and it's going to be like, hey, oh, okay, I care about this team now, I care about this character that they're writing about. And I left all of them kind of feeling like, that was perfectly readable, but I don't really care.
Do you think perhaps there is a level of fatigue, like as you're reading this book, like you've read your first main story, that's great. By the time you're at the start of this story, you're 55 odd pages in,
maybe,
and you're just like, you're just kind of ready to be finished with this, and the issue's still going.
Well, it's possible, but I will say that for the Batman book, I actually didn't read it in one sitting because it was split into stories. Like sometimes I will stop and I'll read the other stories later. So fatigue's only relevant if you read it in one go.
It is. I suspect it's more likely that you read it in one go in this one versus the Batman one, where they're not full-length stories following the first one.
It's possible. I hate to just kind of be... I mean, she saves a bunch of prisoners because there's a lot of like slaves on Warworld, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
And I like kind of seeing some of the underbelly of Warworld. This is like where they're what is it they're doing? They're sorting out trash or they're doing something. But there's conveyor belts and it's kind of like, okay, so Warworld's this huge planet-sized system of like all these levels. It makes sense that there's entire sections that are designed to just deal with the trash or deal with maintaining parts of this ship.
And bodies, like getting rid of them. It reminded me of Snowpiercer, where they talk about certain things about, the bodies got to go somewhere. Where do you think they go? And how they're dealt with. So, but it's very like, I was reading this and go, this is very sci-fi.
Mhm.
Like this is like the sci-fi that I typically don't get into. And not that it's bad, it's just not my thing. And so I kind of just breeze through this. And it's her stuck on War World, and I understand that on its basic concept.
It's okay. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I didn't get super into it either. It's kind of this thing when I get to issue 2 of this World of War book. Obviously, I'm excited for that first story. Like really excited for that first story. The backups, like I'll probably read them, but it's sort of thing where if we're low in time that week, or if I have like some Patreon books piled up, they might get cut just because of that.
Pretty certain I'll read the Mr. Miracle one, because those have been such easy reads and have been always at least enjoyable, right? Yeah. And they take there's so little time to read. The
reason why this month's been very challenging from just how much like we have to read each week is because, you know, we've wanted to try everything, at least the first part of every story. Going into February, we're going to be obviously have the choice of, you know, obviously we've dropped maybe a couple of the books. Some of the backups we know we don't like, we're not going to read. So naturally that'll smooth things out over the month.
It'll be interesting next week if we look back at the month and go, all right, which ones are we not reading next month, and kind of seeing how much are we actually cutting out, and just even in terms of like the primary books, because I can think of there's at least a couple before we even look at.
I think there's 1 or 2 each week that I don't want to read, which is not bad actually. As a ratio goes, that's perfectly solid.
Yeah,
if that's what it works out to be when I actually look at it properly, but my gut instinct says there's a couple each week that I'm dropping, but we'll see. All right, Matt, you want to rate the Black Racer story?
Yeah, I'll give it a 6.5.
Connor?
I'm probably going to do the same as what I did with the Midnight one, where it's just it's a 5. It's fine. It's there.
I think it appealed to me slightly more than the Midnight one, so I'll probably go with a 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I went up a little bit high too, because at least you know.
I think I had I think I was a bit more fatigued by the time I got to this one. Just like,
I tuned out of the Midnight one. This one I was just kind of like, okay, I'm almost done.
I do think fatigue is an issue, because I think if let's say this was just a $5 book where it was the main story and then just this one story is the backup, I think I might have been a bit more like willing for it.
I think I'd have been more open to reading it. Whereas, like I said, you know, the Midnighter one wasn't great. I was kind of already a bit checked out by the end of that story, and this one just didn't grab me back in. Whereas if I'd come to this one right off of that first story, guarantee you I'd have paid more attention to it.
All right, book as a whole, Matt, what are you rating it?
Man, so book as a whole, I wasn't a big fan of the backups, but I really love that Superman story, so I'm gonna have to give this a 7.5.
Sure, Connor?
I think it's still ultimately getting the 8.5 from me. With everything else.
Rating is so stupid.
I know, but I gave it a 10, a 7, and then a couple of 5s. But that first 10, obviously, I mean, 10s by their nature drag things up.
Yeah, I'll probably give it an 8 overall, because it's so weighted towards that first story that I think is a must read. Admittedly, I think that some of these will be easier to read, because I mean, at least John Ridley's Batman's going to be bundled into a trade where it's just those chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Superman's maybe a bit weirder because it's not enough to get a full trade of just the main story of this.
It's very hard to recommend someone go out and spend, what was this, $8 this one?
$8.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to recommend you go out and spend $8 for that first 20 pages, as much as I love it.
I think in the UK Comixology it was like $6.40 or something like that. I can't remember the exact price. Right, yeah. It was something in that range. All right. There you go. That's Superman Worlds of War. Immortal Wonder Woman issue 1. Now, you'll be glad to know that's the 60-pagers done. we're declining.
It's just a
start breezing.
Yes, we're declining in size now as we go. Immortal Wonder Woman issue 1, right? This is I don't have the creators written down because again there's multiple stories, but the main story.
Jim Bartel on art.
Jim Bartel on the art. Yeah.
And I believe this is Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad on writing.
So it's a new team. It's a new Wonder Woman team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is intriguing because obviously it's like, and even this is playing with when is it set, because the very first thing it says is impossibly long ago in the distant future, which immediately is like, okay, you're playing with their minds. You don't want us to know exactly when this is set yet. We're keeping this kind of weird. But it's Wonder Woman getting into the Batcave, and essentially, as if it's like an old shrine, and she ends up talking to a Bruce hologram, but she's reminiscing about her lost comrade, and she picks up the Bat utility belt and puts it on. It's kind of a souvenir. And you've got the Bartel art, when she goes back up to the sky, there's a lot of purples and blues and yellows in the sky. It's kind of that.
It's very much what I expect from
Yeah,
Bartel's covers specifically. It's gorgeous stuff.
It's Bartel 101, and I don't mean that as a slight. I mean that is exactly what I mean it as. It's just this Bartel, and we see that on Apocalypse, something is eating the world, and something's coming after various planets. And Darkseid doesn't give a shit. He lets Barda and Orion just kind of die. he's like, whatever.
This is Darkseid.
I mean, it's already an interesting premise of they're calling Darkseid Highfather.
Yeah. In fact, I mean that full page spread, because he just leaves the planet and he looks down on it as it's like being consumed. That page is gorgeous. It's something else. But we see that Wonder Woman is keeping Swamp Thing safe on Themyscira, but Swamp Thing is dying, and the Green is dying. Earth's days are numbered, seemingly, and the other Amazons don't really want to like try and help at this point. They just want to kind of fight whatever's coming to Earth. This thing that consumed Apocalypse. They just want to try and fight it. They don't want to move and like do anything more strategic.
And these are newer Amazons as well. By the sense of it, these are people that Diana has taught.
Yeah.
So
the next generation.
Yeah.
We have like all these very pretty pages of Darkseid soaring through space, and he's actually questioning. Okay, it's been so long now, so seemingly sometime in the future, who's even survived on that puny planet Earth that I'm going to go and take over now. He even drops a Darkseid which is obviously pops us all now
with a big evil grin.
Yeah. But there's a great panel where, because obviously this is a Wonder Woman book, so I think I actually popped a little bit when he's like, who's even left? And then you just see in the distance an old Superman, and he goes, I should have known. Like, hard not to pop a little bit of that.
It's kind of like the same reaction that all of us have. Cause, we're off guard because it's a Wonder Woman book, like you say, and I don't think they'd announced that there was any Superman in this book. And it's like, oh, who survived? And in our heads, we're like, well, we know Wonder Woman, so we're expecting that. And then you get to this at the bottom of that same page, and he goes, I should have known. And I'm like, yep, should have done.
Yeah, it plays on our expectations. It's obviously the idea that Superman's still there even after everything else. This is way after War World and everything that whatever happens.
He's like fully grey.
Yeah.
You know what this reminded me of? The Jason Aaron Thor story, Last Days of Midgard.
Oh,
I can see that comparison.
Yeah, where this is the end, and Galactus is coming to finally consume Earth because no one's there to stop him. But old King Thor's there, and of course, old Superman and now battle-weary Wonder Woman, or we'll call her Immortal Wonder Woman, are there. And I was getting the same vibes, like her talking to the Green in Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and Diana basically just decides to, even though she didn't want to fight head on like the others do, because they want to do it, she's like, I'm going to stand by your sides because you're my sisters. But that's when Superman and Darkseid crash land on Earth. So she goes over and like sort of tries to stop Darkseid.
Also, is that a Green Lantern ring she's wearing around her neck?
It looks like it actually. Yeah.
Because I felt like it had a bit of a glow, but I wasn't sure if that was just.
There's no close-ups, but given that she's wearing a Batman utility belt, it makes sense that that's what it is.
It's that panel where Superman crashes. That page, sorry. On the left, you've got the two vertical panels of Diana, the close-ups. That first one, I was like, oh, it looks like a green glow, but also, like, is it just a yellow glow from the lasso reflecting? But I think it is just a green light.
It's very green in every, because I didn't even focus on it until you just brought it up. So I definitely think it's meant to be a Green Lantern ring, almost like she's wearing it in remembrance, though. Until here, where it feels like she's full of will, right? Like, because she's going to take out Darkseid.
Do you think maybe that's why it seems to glow there, like it's reacting to her? Yeah,
it's glowing. But as she's fighting Darkseid, it seems to be glowing more. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think it's so much that she's actually been either chosen or is actually taken over as a Green Lantern, but clearly it's reacting to the will that's building up in her as she's in this fight, I think.
And I think this fight is absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
The movement and the way the way Battle portrays, like like the kick to the head, with all the lines coming off it, you really get a sense of the motion of it.
Yeah, and as this is happening, Swamp Thing dies. Diana has to say goodbye, really sadly. And the cliffhanger is Darkseid's got Superman up by the throat, but she's just sort of like crying because Swamp Thing's died. It's like it feels like all hope is lost, and that this is the end. This is truly the end. So I really like this main story in this book.
It was good.
Yeah. No, this is real solid. Again, it's another one that's like, okay, I'm on board for the main book now when that starts. I probably was anyway, but
Yeah,
It
well,
helps.
I wasn't sure because I think the two writers that I was really excited about Wonder Woman, it had varying results, but that was it was Wilson and it was Tamaki, and Tamaki's was a bit more low key than I think we expected. Wilson's run I think was very good. Clinton, I don't think I was inherently as excited at face value for, but this story definitely got me interested.
Yeah. I think I'm a little bit disappointed we don't have Bartel as the regular artist.
Sure.
But I mean, I can't remember who we've got. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be bad. But again, much like how we spoke about how Johnson seems to understand Superman, I feel like Flynn and Conrad understand Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only thing going against us is that it's not quite as good as the first Yara Flor issue of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, but I mean, this is Diana though, so like that's okay.
If I have like actual critiques to make, I think it's a little bit clunky at times with the dialogue, like here at the end, where it feels like just the fight's still going. Wonder Woman takes the moment to stop and talk to Swamp Thing, instead of immediately rushing off to help Superman. Just there's some moments like that feel a little bit contrived or clunky, but not enough to ruin it for me.
Yeah, and Swamp Thing tells it to get up because he doesn't want to die alone, which is really sad. Just so no, I mean, I think it's obviously very beautiful drawn, and the coloring's very pretty. The story feels big. It feels like you say, compare it to that Thor story. I think it's a really wise move. So, yeah, it feels special in that sense. What are you giving this main story, Matt?
I'm giving this an 8. I didn't know for all the clunkiness and whatnot. I mean, I'm a sucker for Jen Bartel art, so like this is kind of always what I wanted to see from Bartel. So
yeah, Connor.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 8 as well. Would have been slightly higher if not for the clunkiness.
Yeah, I think I'll probably go with the 8 too. Yeah, very very pleased with it. Again, very promising for the run coming from the same writer, or same writing team, I should say. Then there is a backup though, which is about Grail going around stealing artifacts to do a thing. And our other Wonder Woman here, Nubia. This is written by L.L. McKinney, art by Aletha Martinez. I mean, I like the design of this Wonder Woman.
I believe this is a weird one where a lot of the things in Future State are like almost adverts for upcoming runs. This is in the same way, but rather than being for one of the upcoming main books, Nubia is getting one of the graphic novels, the teen line, I believe, which is going to be her origin story. So this is kind of like a prequel to that almost.
I like it. I think I like the really big hair. I really like. I think that's something the artists can really play with. Is how they incorporate that into the action, especially when she's. Their head's getting knocked back and the hair's flying up. There's a lot of really fun things. It's very reminiscent of the post-crisis Diana's her hair back when it was really long and curly.
The Perez stuff.
Yeah. So I like that. I mean, I don't love the art necessarily in this.
It's fine.
I mean, it's okay. It feels very it feels typical house style DC to me.
There were a couple of points. I'm trying to skim through now to find it, but
I like the breakdowns when it starts to get to the fighting scenes.
Sure.
Just you have odd angles. Like there's the panel of the top of the page where she's catching a knee. But like the way that the angles are cut, they're almost like they're cut out, and there's the negative space behind it and whatnot. And I thought that was really cool. But you're right, like the character designs and whatnot are just very typical of DC. But I don't think that's necessarily bad.
I do like the page though, where she touches this rock and it has this thing where it shows like a future, fight or death or whatever it is. I like that page where she's holding her head, screaming as she's seeing this like death and destruction, and like something from the past involving what turns out to be her aunt. I think if anything, I do think this issue or this story doesn't. It's not not super friendly with explaining exactly who she is, who her aunt is, or the context of what's going on. It kind of leaves a lot of it open, and that's not completely bad. But because it's like, okay, you're only going to get more of this if you go and buy the graphic novel, so it's not like
Yeah. I do have a one question to do with the story, the storytelling and the lettering that really confused me, and I was very confused. Like on that first page, there's a conversation where it's like, "Oh, stop simpering, deactivate the case." And you said it'd be spared, and I said May, and then that's fine. That's in context there.
And that's the guard that's just that Grail's talking to.
Yes. Later on, that same conversation replays in the middle of the fight scene.
Yeah.
And it even has the same, it says, Atlanta, Michael C. Carlos Museum, which, again, in the middle of the fight, like we had on the first page, telling us where we were. It feels like the lettering was copy and pasted and superimposed. And
they fixed that. If you got the digital one, they fixed it.
Oh, did they fix that?
There's an update.
Okay, because I read this straight away and I was like, what's going on there?
They fixed it. Because I thought the same thing. And then when I was thumbing back through it, I was looking for it because I was going to bring it up. But it seems like they fixed it because it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I took a screenshot to share on Twitter. I was like, what's going on here? This is weird. I didn't see them announce that they'd fixed it.
So I just realized who her auntie is.
Sure.
If you look on the club door they go through, there's a giant spider on it, and it's called the Ebony Web, and her aunt is Nancy. So if you know anything about mythology, there's Anasazi, the Spider Woman.
Yeah.
Who is, I'm pretty sure that's who that's supposed to be. And it just took till now for me to realize that, because the way it ends, it seems like pretty sinister with her. Like there's something more to it. So, but like Pete said, it's almost like this is like a trailer for the Nubia book story that's going to be
pretty much what it is. It just makes obviously that's going to be the origin story.
Yeah. So this kind of comes across without. I don't know. It feels like it doesn't actually give you enough context to really latch on to anything that's happening.
It feels just released out of order, almost like this should have been released in a few months after that was out.
I think the art is maybe at its worst when it's just her sitting talking to her aunt, because when we see this a lot with some artists where they're better at the action, but there's a lot of movement and like sort of like motion going on. Whereas when it's just sitting and it's just characters talking to each other, so it's a lot more focused on the faces and the expressions and the performance of the characters, if you will. Some artists have strengths, one or the other. So it's obviously some great artists can do both, but I think this art may be at its weakest when it's maybe trying to deal with those subtleties and not being as subtle as it could be, I guess. Because it ends in a weird cliffhanger, where it feels like there might be an earthquake, but then Nubia's like taken away through a portal. After our aunt's been telling her this story about this great evil they fought once upon a time, and these 9 pieces of sacred rock or whatever were spread out throughout the world.
Basically, they created a weapon that could bring down gods, and then we're like, what if people get these and use them for bad?
And there's a side effect where it also opens portals to like in between dimensions and realms and stuff. Yeah.
And that's why Grail wants it, which I did like seeing Grail again. That was cool.
It's interesting that this is effectively an original batch of characters for this graphic novel, but they're using like characters like Grail from actual Wonder Woman to sort of pepper into it.
And Nubia too, because someone was like, "Oh, it's the first appearance," and they go, "No. Nubia's existed since the '70s in Wonder Woman comics. She's just never been Wonder Woman." So that's cool too. They're giving these characters that have been established and letting them, play in the sandbox.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with her previously. Or at least, I mean, maybe she's popped up in the background of some stuff, but not enough that I've remembered.
Oh, no. Yeah. And that's why, because I thought this was new too, but I did look, and 1973 was the first appearance, and even in Crisis, she shows up. And then in Post-Crisis, she's slightly different in the pre-Crisis way, But no, she's been established, so that's cool. They're bringing her back around, and I feel like Wonder Woman is kind of that neck of the woods that it needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. Not necessarily for like Wonder Woman family characters, but like there's so much there that you can do with different mythologies, and like why is it just the Amazons? Clearly Nubia is an Amazon, but her origin's slightly different.
It does feel like we're getting that now, because obviously we've got Nubia being in graphic novels, and maybe will be more after that. I don't know, but we've got Yara Flor as well, which we know we're getting a mini of. Right? I don't think it's actually been solicited yet, but they did announce a mini.
I think that's like some of the other backups. This is one where I'll just see how I feel when I finish the main story on the day when I'm reading it in the next issue. See if I want to read this more of this, because it's not bad, it's not great either. It's just kind of just it's okay. I can see what it's doing. I can see the potential in this character and the mythology they've set up here. But I love reading this on its own. it was kind of okay. So with that said, Matt, what do you want to rate this Nubia story?
I'm gonna give the Nubia story a 7.
Connor?
I'm going to give it a 5 with the acknowledgement that part of that is my experience reading it was that lettering mistake, which is now fixed. But that did harm my experience reading it.
I'm going to go right in between. I'm going to say a 6, which I think it's a perfectly fine read, but not something that blew me away by any means. So Wonder Woman issue 1 as a whole, or Immortal Wonder Woman issue 1, I should say. Matt?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
Connor?
Out of the 2, I'll come down at a 7.
Yeah, I'll probably just agree with that. 7. Yeah, cool. There you go. That's Immortal Wonder Woman issue 1. Future State Nightwing issue 1, Andrew Constant writing and Nicola Scott on the art. So we're on to the regular size books now, which is nice. Nice and simple. This was okay. I thought I liked some of this. It wasn't amazing, but
This is one I probably won't pick back up if the week is this big again.
Sure.
It's perfectly fine. I kind of didn't care about anything that happened, which is annoying because it's Nightwing.
I thought it was perfectly fine. I thought the art is. I mean, it's Nicola Scott for starters. So I mean, obviously the art's solid.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like Nicola Scott. I don't know if it's the inker or the colorist. It didn't have that Nicola Scott flair that I'm used to.
It's a little different. I mean, I appreciated this as a Nightwing. He's been lured into a trap by the magistrate. They're faking like a mugging or something, and he comes in. The couple who were getting attack him. So a bit of a fight scene, and he retreats to, I think it's the Arkham Asylum, what's left of it. He's got a sweet moment with Babs where he sort of says thanks, Babs, for her help over the comms. But ultimately, this is about the new Batman showing up, and Dick traps him at first, and basically questions why he's doing what he's doing, and wants to know why he's here. And it turns out that the next Batman is like, no, I want to be part of your team. I want to be part of your squad because I can't do this on my own. And that's basically the story as the magistrate are showing up outside because they've tracked Nightwing here.
Which he knew about, though. He's like, I'm ready to fight.
They use nanotech in their, like, I don't know, they give him some nanotech.
Courtesy of Ray Palmer, I'm sure.
Of course, it's courtesy of Ray Palmer. This was the sort of thing where I thought it was an easy read. I thought it flowed well enough, and I think it's just generally okay. Here's the back character status quo in this future state version of Gotham. I'll probably read the next one of these. I think this is a case of, because I'm going to be reading much less of the backups. I think next time when this next issue drops, I don't think I'm going to feel as anywhere nearly as bogged down. And
That's possible. I think for me, it just didn't have that much going on. Like there wasn't much to it. There wasn't much meat in it that makes me want to read more.
I mostly forgot what had happened just because I've read so much other stuff since.
I think that's fair. I think for me, this was kind of what you were saying about the Mr. Miracle backup, is that this was world building.
Right. I'm okay with that in a 10-page backup. I'm a bit more annoyed at that in a $3.99 book.
I've also not read a lot of good Dick comics for a while, so maybe I just enjoy it.
See, this is the thing. The argument is I could leave it, not bother the next month, and come in fresh to the tailor.
That's true.
And be like, oh, this is such a breath of fresh air.
I did like the art though. I mean, obviously, there's not a lot to say on this, which is good because we have a lot of books to talk about. But
I think it says a lot that Scott's art shines in the back third when like Nightwing's in the shower, for example, like and onwards. It like all the lines clean up, and it becomes you have a really kinetic fight scene in the shower.
I also like the idea of the next Batman coming to Dick, and like Dick even being impressed as, oh, you got out your restraints a little bit quicker than I thought. But the idea that he expected him to do it was kind of a test in and of itself. The idea of Dick meeting this new Batman and kind of their interaction is it's interesting enough to me that I was kind of into this. So just to jump straight to the chase, 7 out of 10 from me. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Oh, that's going to be a really short review on the when it's caught up for YouTube. What are you giving it, Connor?
Yeah, it's a 6 from me.
Yeah, not a lot to it. But I enjoyed the world building added to the future state Gotham side of things. So there you go. Next up, future state Catwoman issue 1. Ram V writing with Otto Schmidt on the art. Nice to see Otto Schmidt on another book again. We've been a big fan of his ever since the Green Arrow days back at the start of Rebirth. Not really surprising given that it's Ram V who's been doing a great job on Catwoman. That this is a fantastic issue. I think what's more interesting though is that it's a very different type of issue though to his Catwoman issues so far, because it's not a crime book. This is a train siege issue where
I mean, it's kind of a heist.
it's a heist, but that's different.
It's a heist, but it's very different from the mob crime.
Yeah,
stuff that
I'd say it's very different. This is more a heist where the magistrate are moving some high priority prisoners. And obviously, at the end of the issue, it reveals that the big one that she's trying to get to is Bruce Wayne. Like, he's alive and they've got him, and he's on this train. But Selina's got her strays helping. She's going to get on this train. There's a lot of big, ridiculous action stuff where she's riding like her. It looks like a bike she stole from Bruce, to be honest, like some fancy futuristic bat bike.
Yep.
And she does this insane, ride off a bridge onto the top of the train. It's very.
It's got like a thing that pops out like wings and lets her glide a little bit.
Yeah, and she's got magnets in her hands and feet, so she's because over the comms, they're like, hey, you've got like 9 minutes until the magnetism wears off, and you're just going to get thrown from the train because it's like a bullet train. It's going super fast.
Yeah, it's like you got to get inside in like I think it's like 12 minutes from when she lands.
And all of this is just really good art. It's really fun to read through. Flows really well. You've got the panels and the speed lines all really flowing, like you say, the page where she jumps off the bridge and then glides onto the train. It's only 4 panels, but it has a lot of motion and movement in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is something I've come to really appreciate about Ramby, and I know this is praising the art here specifically, but Ramby, as I've noticed in his books, has a lot of respect for knowing when to shut up and let the art do its thing.
Oh yeah.
Like on this page you're talking about, there are 2 word balloons, and that's it. The rest of the page is just the art, and it would be easy to stuff narration boxes on that because there's so much quote unquote empty space around where the bike is in midair. Like you could just stick narration boxes on the background of the city, but he doesn't.
And it's worth mentioning, we don't start from Catwoman's perspective. We actually start, the framing device for this book is that the magistrate, like captain or whoever he is he's basically been told to accept this inspection from this high-ranking official and it's this woman in blonde hair who's there to sort of see that everything's running smoothly. And he's essentially giving her the tour of the trains. This is our protocols. This is what we do. Everything's going to be fine. And, the first time we see Catwoman, she's just doing some sort of like sign language for her, like, her team.
Presumably a cat symbol that she's making with her hand.
I was hard not to think of the Too Sweet symbol, to be honest, Matt, when I saw her do it.
It's very much too sweet.
Yeah. But, it sort of presents it where we're kind of waiting for her to come in, so it does it in this sort of exciting way. It's like, oh, what's she up to? She's like, they're doing something with this train, we just don't know yet. And then we get all the action stuff. But the big twist again at the end, not only is it the Bruce Wayne is the big prisoner that they're trying to get to, is that this woman in blonde hair actually kills the guy who's running the train and then takes off her wig. And the reveal is this is Talia, who's helping Selina get to Bruce. Which, honestly, is kind of a cool reveal. Because it's like, okay, even Talia wants to help get Bruce out of this to, like, try and help fix whatever's going on.
Who is the magistrate? Because, like, they're clicking out, And
I think they mentioned they've got Cheshire on the inside as well, right, in this issue?
Did they mean Cheshire? I thought that was just a code because it seemed like they were all different. Their codes were all different cat names.
It could be. It could well be, but I was like,
because also the mask that person was wearing looked like Cheshire Cat.
Yeah, it's very possible, but I was like, maybe it's because that is a character who can play on both sides, depending on the story. So
definitely. But no, I know you guys have been on the Catwoman, Ram V Catwoman thing, and so I read this one.
We've been on the Ram V Catwoman train, Matt. Say it properly.
Yeah, I didn't want to. That's why I stopped myself and went to switch. You guys have been all over it, and so I was like, well, I'll read this. It's got Otto Schmidt art. Why not? And it was like really good. Like I was completely surprised. And then we got the Talia reveal, and it was like a train robbery in the Old West, kind of.
Even before that, I was really excited to see Onomatopoeia because does not get used very often.
That's a good point.
Great fun villain.
Onomatopoeia ends up working with Catwoman, helping fight.
Basically, it's just like, look, you help us get off this train, you fight through, I'll let you go free. I won't say anything.
Yeah.
Get a one-time pass.
And great use of colouring here, because like outside it's snowing, so there's a lot of blues and whites outside. Inside it's more muted reds, but once the fighting starts and you get the idea that alarms are going off, so all the red lights come on. You get all this harsh red light inside the train. So again, everything feels really distinct in my mind when I think of it. I read this on Tuesday, and I didn't even skim it before this because I didn't need to. I remembered it so vividly because it was so well told through both the writing and the art. Matt, you have to catch up on Catwoman and read.
When Matt tweeted about it, I was like, wait, you weren't reading Catwoman? I didn't realize he hadn't been, because god damn, it's so good.
I will get caught up. It would be nice if I didn't have 14 books this week.
I know, but once Future State, I mean, even just next month when you've cut out a lot of the Future State books you don't like, I would say catch up on those 3 issues or 4 issues, whatever it's been. No, but the reveals are cool. It actually feels really important to the overall Future State Bat stuff because it is about finding Bruce Wayne. Because, I mean, I assume this is set after Dark Detective.
I'm guessing because Bruce is in
custody.
Custody. So I'm guessing that. But who knows at this point? Like, I know there's that. Connor always brings up the timeline.
But they group everything just in the year, and within that year, it's all just alphabetical. So there's no no direct placement, so it's harder to say.
I think this issue was kind of a masterclass, and I've said this a few times about Ram V recently with Catwoman issues, but I think this is a masterclass because it introduces. I mean, it turns out one of them is Talia, but at least from the face value, she was a new character. We have these 2 characters, sort of like framing everything on the train. We have Catwoman doing the heist, her teaming up with a villain to like fight through the train. People help her on the outside, all this great action stuff. The entire issue is framed with the idea of this train section, and then presumably the next issue is going to feel very separate because of that. But then the twist at the end, like, and then the coloring breaking it, like everything about this was almost a perfect issue. And the only reason why it might not get a 10 is because maybe it's not like got the emotional impact of, say, something that's got the gut punch of a Doomsday Clock, or maybe a perfect issue of Superman that Connor talked about earlier.
Something that we didn't kind of mention that I think is a really nice thing is the multiple different countdowns that are going throughout the issue that are brought. So the first one you've got like 15 minutes to get to the train, 12 minutes with your magnets, and it keeps popping up with a timer every couple of pages to let us know how they're doing. And then towards the end, it resets a new one, going, right, we've got 50 minutes till this tunnel, and by the final panel, I think has it's a close up on Bruce's face, I think, and it's like 41 minutes left or whatever. Yeah,
so I think we're still going to be in the train next issue, but obviously things are going to be very different. Actually, one of the timing things that's really important, which I'm remembering it now as you brought that up, is when Selina does jump onto the roof of the train and then has to come inside. Basically, there has to be a couple of her people on the inside have to fight back and then open a door for her to get in. And if they didn't do that at that exact time, she'd be screwed. But likewise, it's told from the perspective of the kid who's going to open the door, because he's like, if we don't open this door, if Selina's not there to like take on these bad guys, we're screwed, because they're going to just beat the shit out of us.
And I love the way this is told. The small tight panels, him desperately clicking at the pad to open it, and then the whip just comes in after through the door, and it's great. Very
suspenseful, very cathartic when it happens, and you get the payoff with the whip coming through. So really good stuff. Ram V's Catwoman continues to be one of the best books DC have right now.
It's so interesting that this is, compared to a lot of the Future State books, so disconnected from his main book. There are no real, that first bit set in Alleytown, and you have the Strays, which is presumably just showing us she's going to build a community in Alleytown over the course of her run, which is not really surprising. But compared to, like, say, the Titans one from last week, which was clearly, this is what to expect in that Titans Academy book. This is not that. It's a very disconnected adventure that anyone who hasn't been reading Catwoman, like Matt, can just jump into and still, really enjoy.
Yeah. And it made me want to go back, and despite
it works as an advert in its own quality rather than
because you're like, okay. I'm sure it's gonna have different art, but even the art Pete's been praising.
Killing it on
the art's been great. It's basically take the quality of this and mix in a little bit of like a Brubaker crime book, and that's what you're getting from the main issues. So
You're speaking on my language.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
this is why I was shocked that you weren't reading it already. It's such a book, map
Because
book.
I'm trying to read less stuff, and then this week happened, and
Yeah.
I can't not read Nightwing. I can't not read
I know.
Shazam, but like maybe I shouldn't have.
Don't
You know?
worry. I mean, this is the great thing, Matt, is that February can be much later because you've tried them, and the ones that you're going to drop, you can drop, and it's all is well in the world. With that said, though, Matt, what are you going to rate Catwoman Future State?
I'm giving this one a 9. All right, this one's real good.
Car?
Yeah, it's a 9 for me as well. So good.
I'm trying to talk myself up a little bit to the 9.5. Yeah, I'm going to do it. 9.5. Catwoman Future State. There you go. Because there was so much negativity about the backups in those first couple of books that I want to let when the positivity feels like it's there, I want to let it flow, baby. Let it flow for everyone to enjoy.
It's really interesting how when we get to the end and do rankings, this is kind of even probably going to be higher than the Superman book, even though that main Superman story I think is better than this.
Yeah, but that's because of the backup. So this
right, but that Superman story is like the same length as this. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, but hey. There you go. That's Future State Catwoman issue 1. Future State Shazam issue 1. Tim Sheridan writing with Eduardo Pansica on the art. So Tim Sheridan also did the Teen Titans book last week, right? That's the same writer.
Yep.
I'm remembering. So this is kind of an interesting premise. And when I say interesting, all I really mean is different. Before we read into what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So Future State Shazam is in the future, and we don't really get to know this by till the ending, but it's about a Shazam where Billy and Shazam have actually split up, and they're separate entities. And Shazam is kind of in the world, and he's on this team of heroes with Miss Martian and
Bunker's there.
Bunker, yeah.
It's like a secondary Titans team.
Yeah, this is the one that we saw that they were out in the field in that last Titans issue.
Yeah. And they end up fighting like Giganta, and the Creeper is there. And one of the big things is that Shazam, because the Creeper ends up dead, murdered. And when they look into it, because they're like, oh, there's like a serial killer going around killing supervillains. And when they analyze the footage later or whatever it is, it turns out that Shazam's behind it. But we get this backstory where Shazam and Billy separated in hell because Shazam's power is meaningless there. So it made sense that Billy would be this guardian for this tomb in hell.
Right.
And so Billy's left there in hell in chains because he's like chained against this door.
Yep.
Yeah, for reasons, I guess. I'm not entirely clear why he needed this.
So the whole thing with Billy is that he's like a moral paragon, right? That's why the wizard chose him. And over time we've seen like, no, Billy can be fallible and whatnot. But here he's pure enough that like his purity is what's gonna keep that door locked.
Right.
And so the bargain.
I think what I can get at though
is
I don't really understand what's really behind the door. What it matters.
I don't either, and I'm sure
I don't understand the weight
in,
of the sacrifice. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna tie into whatever's happening in the Titans book that because Sheridan's writing that, and we know
very possibly, yeah,
that ties in with the Four Horsemen. So I'm sure that has something to do with all this. And I read this and I'm like, this is fine.
This feels like it needs a few extra issues, more than 2, to actually get its concepts across. Because I think it's just trying to do too much, and I felt like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, I was not big on this issue.
That's probably because this is going to be in 2 issues, but it probably should be like 5 or 6, just to actually introduce all the concepts that it's actually playing with. I mean, it's not a complete travesty. This is not the Flash Future State where I was angry. It
feels though like this should have been, the Titans book rather than being 2 issues, maybe should have been 4, and this should have been like a B plot in that book.
Yeah, I could see that. Especially since we're assuming it's related.
Well, I mean, we had Shazam in that book. That team was mentioned, and same writer. It feels intrinsically linked.
I appreciate that Sheridan seems to have a idea of this Titans world that his book's going to take place in, because it seems like stuff that happens there is what leads to this. So
I feel like he has a pretty solid Word document full of all the beats
Yeah.
for his
Yeah.
Titans Academy run.
And I just, like you said with this one, you summed it up perfectly, where this is a B plot that didn't need its own. Like, if this had happened in the course of
Do you know what?
his
do you know what
Titans
this?
book,
Do you know what this should have been? This should have been the 10-page backup in Titans Academy.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was called
that would
last
have
week.
worked. Yeah, that would have worked. So
Yeah,
But
I
yeah.
will say this does not put me off trying this Teen Titans Academy book though.
oh, me neither.
Uh,
But like you said, if this was a backup, that would have been like, okay, cool. Here though, taking up the whole issue was just like, oh,
because I mean,
well,
I think
this
the main
is
critique,
fine, but
the main critique of that Teen Titans issue last week is that okay, I like kind of the ideas that it's playing with, and I appreciate what it's setting up for that run, but it was overstuffed, and this feels kind of similar to me, where it's but without the better qualities that book also had. It just feels like the overstuffed parts.
I really hope that they're only overstuffed because it's just trying to cram so much into 2 issues and not just that
mhm.
he doesn't know how to pace his issues correctly.
I hope that's the case. I'm hoping that when we get to read the actual Teen Titans Academy issue 1, that we're not going to be like, oh, I'm hoping that we get to that, it'll be paced like an issue 1, and I'll feel like I'm getting introduced to the concepts at a nice reasonable rate.
Yeah.
Because I think we're giving them the benefit of the doubt here that, oh no, you're just trying to put too much into a 2-issue story, or 2 different 2-issue stories here. And that when you've got a proper ongoing, you'll pace things better.
Yeah,
But
if the first couple issues of Teen Titans Academy feel like this, and it'll be a quick drop, I think, for all of us. But
yeah,
as it is, wait and see. Do I care about reading issue 2 of the Shazam Future State book?
Nope.
Nah, not really.
Nope, not on a loaded week like this one.
I think I'm going to forget whatever happened in this by the time the second one comes out.
I
Yeah.
forgot what had happened in this since I read it on.
Yes, I mean, I have to admit, I was kind of having to look at some pages as I was introduced to it, just to like, jog my memory. Like, what on this book? Oh yeah, the murdered creeper. That's right.
Yeah.
Him and Billy were split up, and the art's okay. Pansica's obviously a pretty solid house style artist for DC. Not knockout by any means, but not displeasing either. So, Shazam on the last page does look a little bit weird proportionally.
I think it's the angle he's at, isn't it?
Yeah. But hey, not too bad. Matt, what are you giving Future State Shazam?
I'm gonna give this a 6.
Connor?
It gets a 4 from me.
I'll go with a straight 5.
There you go, split it.
Yes. I thought Connor was going to say something else. I was
Just 4 is below average. It's not terrible, and I think this is below average.
Yes, I was giving Connor the window there. All right, that's Future State Shazam issue 1. Batman Catwoman issue 2. So we're out of Future Stateville, and we're into other things here. So Tom King and Clay Mann here for this issue, and I think I really like what some of what this book's playing with some of its ideas. First of all, I'll say that all the scenes in this of Phantasm hunting down like Joker's like henchmen, like the one on the train, especially in the subway, absolutely gorgeously like creepy. Loved it.
Definitely, I'll agree there. I think the art too. The art is
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, when Clayman does show up, it really looks great. You know, because we've talked about some of the stuff in the series that we don't like to name anymore, or even in when he did the double date with Clark and Lois, and some of it would look just kind of like he just, I don't want to say copy and pasted, but you know, they were definitely repeat stuff. Here though, like that's not an issue. Like every page just brings it.
And that second page of Phantasm, the full page spread with the blade. Yeah. Like that's like putting a frame and putting your wall worthy. Yeah. It's you know, it's this next level. But you have Catwoman in present day going to see Joker about what's going on with Phantasm, and not wanting Bruce to find out her part in this backstory.
So the overarching story in this one is that one by one, Phantasm's going and killing people that have worked with Joker, and it's even like it gets to one of the henchmen that really was never at crime scenes, but did like the setup. So like someone has to load the acid into the flour for him to spray, or you know, set up the traps, and that guy gets whacked by Phantasm. And then you start to find out that this lion necklace that was stolen, and with the Joker. Selina might have had something to do with that in working with the Joker, so now that might put her on the hit list. That's what I got from this.
Yeah, and
story.
the book ends with in the present day part of the story with Selina lying to Batman because he straight up asked, "Did you have anything to do with this? Were you there when Joker did this thing?" And she says no.
Well,
I will say, Joe, what's grown on me though since the first issue is the future stuff with old Selina and old Joker in the house. I actually really loved almost every scene they had in this issue with that.
Yep. Well, because it went from being something like, why is she going talking to this old man? Then you realize it's the Joker. And then here, there's no doubts, because just the way that, he's very Joker-fied in this. And he goes to go get her a water and pulls a gun out of the freezer.
Yeah, because she once says there's almost like a slapstick comedy like build-up of how like they're going to try and kill each other.
He comes out, guns blazing, and she's behind him. Because she's still Selina, she's still the greatest cat thief ever. And there's allusions to the Joker brings up, before your first wedding, you had me in the church, which made me automatically think of Connor.
Because that cross.
He's like, you cut my throat, but you didn't really intend for me to die. You left it just enough that I could survive. And that was foolish on your part, know. And then by the end, she goes straight for it, and it looks like she ends the Joker right then and there.
Well, I don't want to gloss over that. So there's a great panel where he's coming out the kitchen door with the gun, and he's looking through the crack in the door, and it's a really creepy sort of almost a Shining-esque kind of here's Johnny thing. And he comes out, but when he goes to aim the gun, Selina's already behind him. Because she's learned from Batman, I guess. That's a great full page spread. Because he takes a shot, he comes out, and you see the bullet holes hit the
five.
It's the back of the couch that he's hitting at the bottom of that page, and then the following full page spread is her standing behind him. She's already waiting for him, but in the foreground, the feathers of the couch from the gunshots are like going through the air.
Around.
It's beautiful stuff. Like it's really elevating everything here. Which is not to diminish that I do think Tom King's telling some interesting stuff here, but I definitely like this issue more than issue one. I think all of the different elements were clicking a bit better and paying off a bit more.
Yeah, when you think about like first and second issues, where the first has to have like that hook to get you involved, and then the second is when the story really starts coming along. And here, that's where now we have the Phantasm, and we know is, Joker's responsible for killing her son. And that now she's getting revenge, and it's being told over different time frames, right? So we're getting all of that, and this is when I feel like Tom King books work the best, is when he's kind of playing with this idea. And from right here, I feel like the idea in this one was trust, because even Joker even goes and sets off the bat signal, right, to talk with Batman and Catwoman. And Batman's like, the angle of it's off. That's not the police. So they go to it, and that's, where they talk about stuff. So
and Joker surrenders, which leads to like the confrontation with Batman and Catwoman, where he's like, hey, I don't want this to be based on lies.
Right.
She's like, ask me, were you there with the Joker? And she says no. And it's like, oh no, we know she's lying. And to some extent. So the issue ends after that. In the future part where she takes out her hand and uses her nails, literally claws his throat, and it looks like she's killed him. And the last panel is the Joker lying in a pool of blood in his old age, and she's looking down at him. So yeah, I mean, if old Joker is dead, it makes me wonder what more of this future story will be, if there is any more of the future stuff. It feels like there should be. It feels like it's going to constantly be past, present, and future.
The fact that Bruce is gone, but Selina's still around, and whatever happens with the Phantasm, I feel like the Phantasm's still coming for her, because I feel like the Phantasm is that it represents almost that guilt.
Do you think we're going to get old? I mean, assuming Phantasm doesn't like die in present day story, but
well, that's what I mean. Is maybe it's not Phantasm exactly. It's a version of Phantasm that's Selina. It's Selina's own guilt for all of this, because if she's lying about what happened with Joker to Bruce, what else is there in her past, right?
Yeah,
Like,
well, that was one of the most interesting things about the first issue was Selina's attitude towards Phantasm and
Mhm.
the real woman whose name I'm forgetting.
Andrea.
Andrea, thank you. But like her attitude towards her was very surprising. It was very sympathetic. It was very,
Mhm.
you know, she part of the reason why she was there to see Joker was because of her and on her behalf, and not,
Right.
you know, so it wasn't like this jealous, like, oh, you had a thing with Bruce kind of thing.
Right.
So I'm still interested in that. I'm interested to see how her guilt plays out and the trust between them. And she even brings up in this issue, she's like, yeah, you know, Bruce on his deathbed asked me to be a good person, which, you know, and we know that means no killing. Like, what his one rule is no killing, but she has to go kill the Joker. She has to.
The Joker, right?
Yeah.
Because he's never paid for whatever, you know. Bruce isn't here anymore, you know, and I'll take that up with him later. That's the vibe that I got from her. So,
Yeah. So
yeah, that was real good though. This is the King that I enjoy. So it's really, and it's a quick read. After some of the reads this week, the fact that I got through this so quick, felt very nice.
Flows very well. Yeah, he doesn't overstuff the pages with dialogue for sure. One of the little touches I like is the old man Joker has got like a shirt, you know, like he's got like blue shorts on, and he's got like this red. No, it's not a Hawaiian shirt; it's just striped. But I do think there's kind of an intentional callback to the Killing Joke here, where he tries to shoot Selina, but then gets like, you know, sidetracked from behind and killed instead. I do think it's kind of interesting that his old man persona, his disguise, is very similar to his Killing Joke outfit that he wears when he comes to shoot Barbara. I think there's kind of a symmetry there that's very intentional.
Yeah, definitely.
So I like that.
Oh
touch.
yeah, and she comes at him in her own home, much like Joker did for Gordon.
Yeah. So some nice symmetry there that feels just. But there's some gorgeous pages. You know, Joker standing against the bat signal's gorgeous. We mentioned him coming out, you know, with the gun and getting snuck up upon. All that stuff in the subway, where you see Phantasm. So you're looking through the window in the subway door, and the Phantasm's coming down from the other car.
Yep.
Just beautiful stuff. And the guys that's streaming against, it's like a horror movie. It's a straight up horror movie.
It is. It's the Phantasm's like the shape. It's not a matter of if, but when.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm digging it. I'm on board. So, what are you giving this one, Matt?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm so tempted to go that one notch higher, but I think I'll agree with 8.5. But it's getting there. Like I think Rorschach wowed me right away. This one, you know, had some good stuff in the first issue, but wasn't a complete home run yet. I think it's getting there now.
I think with me, the fact that we're so, like, I don't want to say bogged down, but we're so immersed in Future State.
Yeah.
That something that's taking place in more familiar times feels nice.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got through that and then I got this, you know, which is just a story, and like, sure, it takes place in the future, but it's not Future State. It's different.
Yeah.
You know, it's more familiar. That it's comforting like a hug.
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as Future State has some exciting elements and some stuff that's not good, I think we're going to be happy when it's done and we're back to like regular DC books.
And that's it with when they do all other gimmicky things. Not that Future State's just a gimmick, but like once Villains Month was over or whatever, I was happy to get back into what we were doing.
I genuinely think, obviously next week's our first week of books again for Future State. I do genuinely think that February will feel much nicer because we'll know which ones to skip.
Yeah.
You know, we won't be as bogged down in numbers.
We won't feel as much of a chore with some of the books because we'll have got rid of those already.
Yeah. So there you go. That's Rorschach issue. Oh, sorry, that's Batman Catwoman issue 2.
Yes.
Which takes us on to Rorschach issue 4. Tom King writing with Jorge Fornes on the art. So this is the inspector or the detective is looking into more of where the cowgirl went, right? So her story.
We have a name for her now, or like a code name.
The kid.
Is the kid.
Yeah.
Rich. Okay.
So this is the story of how she kind of how she thinks after leaving her father, as we got the backstory of the last issue. But particularly the story, the detective is interviewing this guy who's in like a really high security prison, and it's someone who worked in the circus with her, because she would do a show where she would shoot bottles as the guy was juggling them, and it's really impressive. That's how the
she never misses.
Yeah, never misses.
He drives that home, you know,
which is very important, I think, for the context of what the crime the crime scene we got.
Right.
So, but so it's this story of her befriending the strong man, right? Where so this guy fell in love with her, and he's like, oh yeah, she was a sweet kid, and she she would talk to me. I wasn't really friends with anyone else there, but she grew close to me. We'd have lunch every day. We'd have dinner. We got really close, and it led to this moment where this drunk guy was sort of bragging about beating his wife up, and the kid came up to her, come up to this strong man out of the blue and said, "I'm going to kill him. I'm going to shoot him because he deserves it." And he didn't want her to get into trouble, so when he sort of came across this drunk guy leaning against the balcony of, like, because they're at the docks, there's a lot of seafront stuff. He decided to take it upon himself to push him over so that she wouldn't get into trouble, and he gets away with it, and it kind of they grow closer as a result. And she doesn't come to speak to him for a while, and he starts to feel really kind of like, oh no, does she not like me anymore? And then she shows up and says, "I figured out who you are." And he's like, "What do you mean? I've never lied to you about who I am." He's like, "No, I know who you are. You're Rorschach." And that's when it pivots into him explaining to the detective the way her mind works, or what her theory is, that all of the heroes from Watchmen, barring Ozymandias, who refused, but Dr. Manhattan basically destroyed all of the bodies of the other heroes, the physical bodies, and put their souls into other people. So she believes that the soul of Rorschach is in the strong man. That is what she believes. And he even believed it because she was so convincing.
She had sold it so much because the space squid attack led to, like her dad talking about the squid gets a hold of people, right? And so in order to fight that kind, Dr. Manhattan knew that they had to take the heroes and kind of do the same thing. So now the heroes can inhabit their souls can inhabit new bodies, and that's how the superheroes continue in this new world. And did you say that he's the strong man in the circus act?
I think that's what it was. Yeah,
he's a big brawny guy. He's which also is the complete opposite of the Rorschach that we knew from the comic.
Oh,
who's
for sure.
Smaller, the smaller guy who's wiry, that he's not going to be put down. This guy's built like a professional wrestler.
And I think the pacing of, like, when he says this theory, and we see these panels of, like, all of their bodies been taken away, there's just this great empty space with no dialogue, this awkward pause before the investigator eventually says, "You've got Rorschach's soul in you. That's what she told you." There's like an awkward pause before it, and he believes it so much because he's in love with her that we get this, several pages as he's telling more of the story of him killing multiple people. Like, he's going around killing people for her.
Dressed as Rorschach.
Yeah, dressed as Rorschach, yeah. So he became Rorschach, and it's this brutal thing. And there's some little mythology stuff as he's doing this, where we hear on the TV, like when he gets caught, or just before he gets caught, one of the guys he kills is watching TV talking about the election. And it mentions that Redford won for the first time in 2016. I thought that was a really interesting year to pick.
No, he won. This would be his fourth term.
This is his fourth term in 2016. Okay.
Right. And so it'd be the fourth since, Nixon had 4. Yeah. Right. And Redford took over. And because Vietnam became a state and Watchmen, their 57 electoral votes, which we have a lot of issues with the Electoral College, even in fiction. 57 that puts him over, and that the Republicans are going to have to go back to the drawing board because the guy that they picked this time was supposed to bring them closer, and it didn't. So there's a lot of kind of real world allusions going on to that 2016 election of Robert Redford, that led to what's going on now that the investigators looking after with, the 2020 election. And what we knew from the last issue when he was talking to the waitress at the diner and all of that stuff. So that plays in real well.
I mean, we've spoken about how this issue is very much about how extremists are born, and how she was brainwashed by her dad, and
that's the whole thing. Is you say this is her idea of how she thinks. I don't think so. I think she realized this guy is very impressionable, and that,
sure, yeah, okay. I was saying you're saying that she doesn't really believe this, but this is what she's told him. Okay,
this is what she's told him because she knows that she can use him to get what she wants done. And how we know how she came to the old man almost feels a lot of the same way. Like she sought him out.
Yeah. You have to assume that she basically convinced the old man, the artist, to the same thing.
Similar way.
Yeah.
And that here they talk about they bonded over comics, and that he loved the pirate character, the big strong man, and that's what they bonded over. Even though he says that he hasn't seen the movie, the new one, right? Then you find out, oh, he's in jail, and so it's almost like she played into the whole black and white, good versus evil to this simpler guy, you know, because as he says,
Yeah.
I'm just a guy that can move heavy things. There's nothing special about me. But like, no, he's, you know, he's a strong man in a circus. People come to see him. He is very special.
But he's so devout, because even after
Right.
he's caught, because there's like a big manhunt and they all like spring a trap on him, and he gets arrested and he's put in he gets shot, right, and he wakes up, and he never like blames her. He actually he believes in her so devoutly. He's like, no, she's going to save the world. She's so important. She's going to do this, which makes the final page, I think, is so good, because the inspector gets up, and it's after like an awkward pause. There's no dialogue in that first panel. He just says, because the big guy's like, oh, I never knew her name. She was always just a kid, and she's special, and she's going to save the world. He just gets up and says, the kid's name is Laura Cummings. She's dead. Found another sucker, dressed him up with the same stuff you were wearing.
Right.
No one gets saved. And it's like, he's heard this rhetoric come from this guy who believed all this delusional stuff, that he just tries to shut it down. You almost get that he really wants to make this guy see just how crazy everything he's been saying sounds.
Right, because this guy was taken advantage of.
Yeah.
You know? And it
immediately,
wasn't like...
And this is the part that feels so true to life, right? The idea of conspiracy theories, the idea of like people convincing themselves of these things, is the guy says what, and then a panel later starts laughing and says, no, that didn't stop Rorschach, and it's not stopping her either. Trust me, they're still out there, and they're still going to save the world. And it's this idea that, oh, that conspiracy you believed in for a long time that said this was going to happen, then didn't happen. No. The goalposts have moved. It's not stopped them.
Right.
They're going to still do the thing.
Well, it's the power of belief, you know? And it can be weaponized, and that's what I feel like here. She knew that. She learned that from her dad. And so whatever happened. Now, this is also a world where Dr. Manhattan exists, and, you know, weird things have happened. So who's to say that there's not a little bit of ounce of truth by the end, you know, of something going on that this investigator is going to come across? Because, I mean, to me, that's what Watchmen is at its heart, is like, yeah, everything's what it looks like until it doesn't, you know, because to the people, that squid's still attacked, right? But we know from the comic that was all Ozymandias' plot.
Yeah, there is no other squid. Yeah, there's no second. Because that's the other thing, is that she believes, or at least she's telling him she believes, and I think she does believe, because her dad believed it, is that the second wave of squid are coming. Like, right,
exactly. So we all know what the truth behind all this is, but also this is also a world where Dr. Manhattan existed and changed things.
It's almost like things are even worse because there's a plausible reason to think that something extremely bizarre could happen.
Right. So who knows? It's another. This book still so damn good. Like,
yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. I think it's quickly. I might like it more than Strange Adventures now. I might, but it's hard. It's really tough.
They're both. Yeah,
they're
I don't
so
know
different.
if I could say one's better than the other, but they have similar themes because they're both kind of about what is the truth, you know, in that, you know, when you're looking back at things in Strange Adventures, like, sure, you're the hero in the moment, but what does that mean in the future? And here, it's kind of like, well, what you believe is what drives you forward, even if it's right or wrong, right? So it's, they're... Again, this is Tom King it was a good week for Tom King this week.
Yes.
Between Bat and Cat and then this, and these are the two that I saved for last. So, like, you know, it made the whole week, me struggling to get through some of the Future State stuff, that much sweeter.
Yeah, Rorschach was the last thing I read as well, and it was kind of intentional just to leave like this to the end.
Because where it's been, I feel like it's gonna ruin the next thing I read.
Yeah.
Because it's not as good, and just the Fornes art here. It's not so much in the shadows until we see this big hulking, you know, Rorschach running around. Everything is very much in the light, which is kind of different than what we've had, which was a nice change, you know, with his story of the carnival and all this other stuff and the story of the kid. And,
yeah, we're starting to see the bigger picture, so it makes sense that it's more in the light. But it also, I do feel there's going to be a swerve for the detective where it's going to get worse again because there's going to be like a new element that's introduced that actually adds more mystery to it. But right now, he feels like he's he understands who this girl is and what type of person she was.
The idea that she never misses and yet she missed. What is that about? Like that now just keeps getting brought up to me.
That's the sticking point. That's the thing that doesn't add up now. Because otherwise it feels like you could sort of predict what this is now. But we have, we have, what, 8 more issues? And
8 more? Yeah. We're at the quarter of the way through, and we're still not any more clear than we were at the first. Like, we have her motivation now.
Yes.
But not so much how she ended up.
And we have themes now. I like the social commentary about
big time.
Extremism and manipulation of people and to a following and political, like, all that stuff is there, and it's been so well done, and it speaks to the real world so much that King knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, this is a guy that still lives in DC. He is immersed in that world. Oh yeah.
So
he literally had to alter where he walks his dog because of the extra security after the Capitol incident. So yeah, so like and the fact that he was in the CIA, and like he just has this, it's nice. It's finding a way through comics. Yeah, because that was the other thing, is that they bonded over comics and the way that they talk about it. And I got Tom King's perspective on comics too, which I like, where he's like, yeah, some people say that they're just for kids, but actually they're for everybody, So the fact, like, all of this stuff, it's almost like he's working out his thoughts on what's going on now in 2020, 2021 in the pages of something most people think are for kids. That's just another layer. Much like the TV show. I mean, Alan Moore probably hates them, but I think that this is using the Watchmen property to tell to tell a story and talk about something the same way that Watchmen did. I mean, regardless of quality, which one if you think, I mean, obviously I'm not saying Tom King's as good as Alan Moore. I mean, that's a bold statement.
No, but I feel like it's almost kind of like what Alan Moore did with Superman. He didn't change Superman exactly, just the stories that he told. He added another layer to them, right? So like he created these Watchmen characters based off of the Charlton characters, and now they're not necessarily using them. They're using what they represent to tell that story, because the TV show does the same thing. Like sure, Silk Spectre shows up, but other than that, you're talking about these characters that existed and what that means in the world now. And I think that's a very smart way versus how they did like the before Watchmen, where you're very much in there with those characters, that leads to those events. This is the fallout. And even Doomsday Clock. I mean, sure, Adrian Veidt's a character in there, but it feels like it's honoring Watchmen, not just using its name. If that makes sense.
But that's a fantastic issue. Matt, what are you giving Rorschach issue for?
This is a 9.5.
Oh, I was going to go to straight 9, but I respect it. Mm-hmm. 9 out of 10 from me. So there you go, that's Rorschach. So, that'll take us on to, I think, Connor's Patreon books. I think that's all that's left as far as I know. Yep. So every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, one of the higher tiers is to make myself or Connor read a book. Connor's catching up because, of course, he was missing for the month of December. So is this you doing the last of the December books and the first of the January books?
It is, yes.
Right, okay. So start you off with Red Hood 52?
Sure, why not? Let me just get to a credits page to tell you who's on it, because there's a couple of artists on there, I believe.
Not Lobdell.
Nope. It's Sean Martinborough writing with Tony Akins and Morita on the art, which is pretty uneven. Neither of them are turning in their best work, frankly. And the fact that you've got 2 artists on the same issue without any like neat separation points or anything like that, it just kind of feels like random pages or this person, back and forth. So that's already pretty rough. I have no idea what these 2 issues were doing. I don't understand why because it's setting up like a whole thing, but as far as we know, there is no Red Hood book. I think there's a Red Hood story in the Gotham anthology coming up, right? I think that's written by someone we actually like, so maybe we'll try it. But yeah, like that whole last issue was setting up that villain and setting up this family in the Hill, which is a new area of Gotham that we've never heard of before. And this issue really just continues that. We have a lot more of, Jason, talking with this, the girl he was with last time, Dana, I think her name was, and it makes it very clear explicitly for us, the audience, if we didn't get it last time, that she is that rival vigilante. And then we've got a little bit more of the actual family interaction, because we knew about her sister. She was the news anchor on TV, and we knew that their father was a figure in the community that Jason knew. He was friendly with the whole family, it seems, at some point in the past. But he basically goes to the diner that I think the dad owns. That's the impression I got. And they have breakfast together, him and Dinah. But then Denise, which is the sister, comes in as well because she's meeting a source, which is, or going to meet a source, which is part of the other plot line. And there's just a whole lot of family drama between these characters that I'm not. Like I say, because it doesn't really go anywhere by the end of this issue. It's adding a bunch of stuff, and I don't know why. I don't know. Well, I don't know if this was written thinking they had more issues. Maybe I don't know, because it doesn't feel like a two-parter. Is kind of what I'm getting at here. And just some weird dialogue here with basically during Joker War, their father got hit by a car of some vigilantes who were chasing a Joker gang, but they hit their dad, and he's lost his leg because of it. He's got like a prosthetic leg now. And one sister, Denise, who's the news anchor, hates all vigilantes now because of it. And Dana puts on a show of hating it. It's like, nothing. We're nothing to do with that. I mean, there's like some awareness maybe that she was part of a neighborhood watch group that was involved in some of this vigilantism, and Jason's like, oh, vigilantism, that's a bad thing. You don't want to cross that line. And I'm really confused as to whether or not they know that he's Red Hood, because there's a point later where he comes to her as Red Hood and is talking to her in her outfit, and they go and take out this villain together, and it feels like maybe she knows, and I'm really confused. I don't know. It's very unclear. I think she does, but again, that murkies up all this dialogue early on, so it's just like a mess. But basically, Croc is working with this fashion designer villain. They've got a whole scheme that they're going to do. Red Hood and the other one, they take him down. That's it. That's the issue. Then there's a bit at the end where Jason moves into the apartment at last. That one that he's owned for years. So he starts moving in, and he's like, "Oh, there's a little present on a table." When he turns around, and he turns around and looks at it, and it doesn't show us what's in the box, but it's a housewarming gift from Bruce, who's the final page, or the final panel is, Jason looking out the window over at Bruce, who's in the batsuit on the opposite rooftop, staring at the window, smiling. I'm like, what is going on? What's happening here? Where has this come from? I don't understand any of the context of this. It feels like it's just out of nowhere. It's a strange 2 issues. Pretty rough, very dense, very bad pacing. Really some quite rough art as well, especially the action sequence in this, where they're like chasing on. It's like a car chase, but you've also got a couple of them jumping on top of the cars and running, leaping between the cars. It looks terrible, frankly. And usually in these issues, the action at least looks okay. And the art has been, frankly, the best part of the book for most of the previous 50 issues. So, yeah, I really haven't got much positive to say about this issue. It's kind of a mess. Don't understand why we did it. Give it a 3 out of 10.
Okay. All right. Your other Patreon book is Undiscovered Country, issue 11. Yeah,
this is Snyder and Soule writing, and Kawankoli and Grassi on art. Same as it's been all arc, basically. This is a pretty interesting issue in that it gives us a lot of answers, and it propels the book going forward in quite a meaningful way. So it picks up directly after the last cliffhanger, where you've got Valentina and Ace are on the Capitol Hill. They're in the Capitol building where all the children's brains are powering this whole, not AI, but the everyone being linked. That machine.
It's been a minute since I've heard you talk about this book, and I feel like it's a fever dream already.
Yeah, because you weren't here the last time I spoke about the last couple of issues, so you'll have like no idea what's going on anymore.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah, but so there's the mummified looking version of Dr. Jane, who's controlling everything in Unity, because that was the whole concept of Unity is they're basically all connected in this computer program, and it's being powered by all these child's brains. And we do actually get an explanation for this. Basically, Jane goes off to get the others, and it's like, hey, look, you've got to make a choice. The reason Aurora brought you here is you've got to choose which zone will benefit the outside world the most. So they had a key from Destiny, and they get given a key here, and the key for Unity is a first generation iPod. Because all of them, some sort of cultural thing to do with America. But the idea here is the keys don't just let you go through to the next zone and walk the spiral as they've been told. They're actually given a choice. Each time they get a key, they can choose to leave America and return to the outside world and take whatever that zone propagated with them to try and fix their problem. So in this case, if they chose to leave Unity, instead of going to the next zone, they could return home and take this Unity system with everyone being hooked up and take that to the world and solve the problems that way. So no, they don't find a direct cure, but the idea is they could, with all the brain power, everyone connected like that, it would be easy. They would find they would create a cure pretty quickly. And Unity represents the technological advances of America. We get a big, great double-page spread of Dr. Jane talking them through the history of what America is. The idea that it created all these, the first functional telephone, the airplane, television, first mass-produced cars, and the idea that technology in America was produced. The goal of the innovation was always to bring each other closer, but so that they could actually be more disconnected. So the idea that we can talk on the phone and don't have to see each other. But that means that's that trade-off. They invented we could fly so that we can actually live further apart. So there are these trade-offs, and the idea of the dichotomy of technology and its advancement, and that stuff's all really interesting. And she brings them all into this world and gives them the choice. And it's like, I'll leave you to go and decide what you want to do. If you want to take this out. But it's not quite as sinister as it seems. I'm going to explain all the kids' brains, basically. It started with in Unity, whenever you turned 70, you uploaded yourself into it and you powered it. You kind of made that choice. But that was not going to be enough power. So they legislated that every second born child has to be given up to this. Like as soon as they're born, they have no experiences. They have nothing. They are, as soon as that child is born, they're taken and hooked up to this, and they put them in like a fake virtual world, so they're happy. They basically they matrix them. It's fine. Is the logic here that she presents, and then it's like, right, okay, now you know the truth. You have to choose, but be warned: no other American zone is as stable as Unity. No other zone is so civilized. They're all just like Destiny was. They're all just different flavors of brutality. And so she vanishes off and leaves them to make the choice. And of course, they choose to advance. They're like, you know what? They take the gamble that maybe this would solve the problems, but we don't want to give up, people's independence and free will in this way. So we're going to carry on. But of course, it was all a trick. Jane, she shows back up. It's like, yeah, I didn't really put you back in the real world like I said I did when you were making your decision. I just put you in a fake version so you'd think that, and it was a test. And if you chose us, then I would have let you go, but you didn't. So Yeah, I've moved you all to the Capitol building, and you're all hooked up inside the machine now. So good luck with that. And that's that's the final cliffhanger. Basically, being just like I'm gonna do that. You live out the rest of your days here, hooked up, and I'll find a way to expand to the rest of the world without you. Don't worry about it. But it's really interesting issue. Like there's a lot of conversations and explanations, but I think that's what this book needed at this point because it's been pretty vague for a good handful of issues, especially this arc. And this put a statement on what the purpose of the book is, and we'd got hints of what the purpose of the zones were, but now it's like, okay, I've got an idea of why they're here, what their mission is, beyond just find a cure for the Sky Virus. This really gives us something to go on and a plan moving forward, and presumably they'll escape this next issue. I think next issue is the last issue of the arc. They'll escape Unity and reach the next zone, whatever that may be, and maybe find out that it's worse than what Unity is, and maybe they should have taken Unity. Maybe should have taken the deal. I suspect the point is for them to get to the end and realize they need all of them together to be the answer somehow. But I'm really intrigued to see where it goes. It's a real solid issue. It's an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
All right. Nice. All right. Well, that'll take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books, which I'm sure will be highly contested this week since we all had so many. Yeah, favorite panel / moment, Matt.
It's gonna be from Superman at war. The world's at war, and it's where Sadie goes, no, he's Clark Kent. Clark Kent saved me. That moment hit me like a brick.
Yeah. Connor.
Similar idea. I'm going with from Superman, World of War. I'm actually doing just the brief segment in War World. It's Superman, knowing he has no powers and he's just got this sword and shield and basically no armor, and just still being like, "Stay behind me. You're gonna make it home." I thought it was a great capper to the issue.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a bunch of Catwoman I could take. I'm actually gonna go with the Immortal Wonder Woman, but it is a Superman moment. It's the who else is even left? Oh, of course, and just like Superman there. I think because it was just more surprising that I got this popping Superman moment and Wonder Woman. But I'll go with that. Best cover of the week. I guess I will jump in here first. I was looking a little bit. There's a few that I like. There's a lot of books, so it makes sense. There's a few. I mean. Not picking, but I think the variant for Shazam is actually really good.
I haven't seen that one.
By Gerard Perel. Very nice. The main Catwoman cover is very nice. Obviously, Jim Bartel's Wonder Woman cover is wonderful. Zamatina, Mr. Miracle, DCeased cover. It's hard to fault that. But I actually think, having said all of that, I actually just really like the main Nightwing cover, which is just Nightwing crouched on the Arkham gates. With lightning.
Is it Nicola Scott?
Yeah. So it's hard to fault it. Plus, it's almost black and white, except Nightwing himself has obviously got the blue on him. So it's really nice and simplistic from a color perspective. So that's my pick. Connor, yours?
Yeah, I'm just looking. Obviously, the Jen Bartel Wonder Woman cover would be the easy pick, but I actually really like the variant. I'm just trying to see who that one is. Peach Momoko. It's so different. I really like it. But I might have to go with the Federici variant for Superman Worlds of War. It's just like so just out there and different. I'm like, oh no, that's a great looking, striking cover.
All right, Matt.
It's gonna be the Rorschach main cover.
Yeah, the strongman.
The strongman, but because it looks like an old circus poster. They did a really good job. The colors are just off enough that it kind of seems like faded. And then at the bottom, it makes a Rorschach that also makes the guy's face. Or at least that's what I see.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of a Rorschach. So, yeah.
A lot of good covers this week.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of books, so I mean...
That's true.
Chances were higher. All right, best art of the week. Now, this is interesting, because I think the rule so far this month has been we have to count the book as a whole. We can't just say, for that one story in the book,
which is a real shame, because otherwise I'd probably be picking Bartel.
But you have to include the second story.
I have to include the second story, so yeah, probably changes my answer.
That's the challenge. Matt, you got one ready to go?
Oh yeah, it's George Fornes for Rorschach. It's without I wanted to pull Janin, but I wasn't that big on the rest of the Superman Worlds at War.
Yeah.
Clay and Mann was close. The Catwoman, Otto Schmidt is up there, but just all around as a whole, I mean, it's hard to beat Fornes right now.
Yeah, I think the main story in both Superman and Immortal Wonder Woman were both really good, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of stuck in the same three. It's Schmidt for Catwoman, it's Jorge Fornes for Rorschach, and Clay Mann for Batman and Catwoman. I actually think I'm going to nudge it in this case to... Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to go Otto Schmidt for Catwoman.
There you go.
I was going to give it a Clay Mann because the Phantasm stuff especially looks so good, but I'm thinking of all those action sequences in Catwoman, and they're just so wonderfully done. So I'm actually going to give Schmidt the slight upset win here.
I really thought you were going to go with Mann, just because, kind of by default, I'm left with Catwoman, in the sense that, like the Janin or Bartel stories are both phenomenal, but as a whole issue, Catwoman is probably ahead of overall is ahead of those, and Schmidt there. And obviously, I didn't read those other two books to choose from, so yeah. I'm going with Schmidt.
All right. Top 5 books of the week, Matt. Then go hit us with it.
All right. So number 1 is going to be Rorschach. 2 is DCeased Dead Planet. 3 is Batman Catwoman. 4 is Catwoman. And I'm gonna swap those. Catwoman, then Batman Catwoman, and then I'll go Superman Worlds of War.
Cool, Connor.
So I'm going Catwoman first, then Superman Worlds of War, then Dead Planet, and then after that, I think Immortal Wonder Woman, and then next Batman, I guess, kind of where I'd land.
Yeah, I think number 1 for me, Future State Catwoman, because I did rate that highest. Number 2, Rorschach. Number 3, Batman Catwoman. Number 4, this is where it's a little bit hairier. I'm not going on my numbers here, I'm going in gut instinct. So technically, even if I averaged out some of the anthology stuff to be lower, I might have it higher ranked here. I think I have to put Superman Worlds at War next at number 4. And then we'll go Dead Planet at number 5. There you go. So I think that was 5 that I said. I'm honest, my thought process in the middle got so out there that I'm not 100% sure. Yes, Catwoman number 1, Rorschach number 2, Batman Catwoman number 3, Worlds of War number 4, and then number 5, Dead Planet. But very competitive, which is good. I mean, I think it's easy to get bogged down with some of the mediocre backups, but a lot of the main stories this week were actually very, very good. So that is cool. So I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics for our final first week of Future State. Although the first book here is not a Future State book, it's Strange Adventures issue 8. So we have another Tom King tour de force next week. But we have Future State Dark Detective issue 2. We have Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn issue 4 is coming out, as is Joker Harley Criminal Sanity. So those are out. But we have Future State Batman Superman issue 1. We have Batman The Adventures Continue issue 8. Batman Black and White issue 2. The Other History of DC Universe issue 2 is out. There's a lot of other books out next week, actually, I'm realizing. Although most of them are stuff that we either dropped or don't cover. So, I mean, little sigh of relief there. But we have Future State Suicide Squad issue 1. Future State Superman vs. Imperius Lex issue 1. Future State Aquaman issue 1. Future State Legion of Superheroes issue 1, as opposed to Legion of Superheroes issue 12. Which was that good, Matt? Was that bad?
It's fine. It wrapped up the stuff. Rogol Zar and Kryptonians and just he was kind of the Great Darkness, but not really. So yeah.
Cool. All right.
It's in my box now though, so I can put that box away.
I just laughed. I was clicking on some of the issues to see what next week. I did on League of Comic Geeks where we look at this. I didn't realize people could leave comments. Yeah. And I clicked on the Legion of Superheroes comment. Just the book to see. I was like, oh yeah, it's that one. Yeah. And I saw the comment, and it's just a comment ragging on Rosberg's art.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, Connor's going to be reading that next week, so it's exciting.
Connor, I was not expecting you to use that alias.
So in terms of future state, though, so obviously we have Strange Adventures, but in terms of future state, that leaves us with Dark Detective, Batman, Superman, Suicide Squad, Superman versus Imperious Lex, Aquaman, and Legion of Superheroes. So this is I'd say this is the weirdest week. I'm not even sure what to expect from a lot of these.
Like Superman versus Imperious Lex is Mark Russell, so it's probably going to be solid.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad, don't care about the main story, but the backup story is Black Adam, so I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah.
Batman Superman is Gene Lung Yang, so it's, who's obviously taking over the main book in March. Who's on Aquaman? Brandon Thomas. Not familiar off the top of my head.
The good news is that even if you're reading all the future state books, it's still actually a much quieter week next week, so that's a plus.
Well, and I feel like I can skip Suicide Squad just because of the credentials of
Sure.
I'm not big on Robbie Thompson, so
I'll probably maybe I'll give it a try. I don't know, we'll see.
And I'm not touching Legion with a 10-foot pole.
Sorry,
so
damn it.
Connor's covering that though. Don't worry.
You leave me on my own. You leave me hanging with the Legion, man. You're the Legion man.
Yeah, I know, but Bendis hurt that, so I gotta take a break. I was a little bit bruised.
Joe, I'm not gonna lie. There's a little bit of satisfaction, after years of you going, I want a Legion book, and then being so excited because you got Bendis of all people on Legion book. I was so disappointed, and now you're like, no, Bendis ruined it for me.
Yeah, not like that. It's
there's a little bit of satisfaction from that.
No, not bad.
So,
but I do get the Mark Russell Superman book because the last time Mark Russell did stuff with these characters, it tends to go my way. So I'm excited for that. So,
and it is Yang on Batman Superman. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was him yet or if it was someone else.
Said that.
Yeah, I know. I was agreeing. I was saying it is him on that.
Yeah,
I'm very excited for Strange Adventures just because it's. I'm
more excited for Strange Adventures than I am for the future state stuff. But
but I'm just saying, like it's good to see it there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a different backup in Dark Detective as well because it's talking about a Red Hood story, not Grifter. So...
we knew that.
Oh yeah, I'd obviously just forgotten.
Yeah, Grifter was always coming. I think all the ones that have 4 issues, which I think is just Dark Detective and next Batman, because Batman, their backups alternate. Yeah.
Okay.
So. All right, so that's what's coming next week. So that leaves me to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So I will thank Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. Thank you to you guys for being Patreon producers, which means you are $20 or more on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But you can support us, of course, over there, everyone else, for as little as $1 per month and help keep all the content coming, help the podcast thrive. You can also support us for free by simply hitting the like button on YouTube, commenting, subscribing, all that stuff. All of it does help. And catch us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast for updates and if you want to ask questions and stuff like that. And whenever we do have a questions episode, when there's a late week of books, which is the opposite of this week, sometimes we'll ask on Twitter for that sort of stuff. Also, not entirely related to comics, but I will make a point of promoting it here at the end. Because we hit 10,000 subscribers on the main Mail Fuzz TV YouTube channel, we're doing a user voted for top 50 TV shows of all time. So if you want to be a part of that, you can easily find the link to submit your top 20 or more TV shows. You can find it on the Mail Fuzz Twitter, which is at mail_fuzz, or you can find it on the Mail Fuzz TV YouTube channel. It's on the community tab. It'll still be the top post. There's not that many posts go up there. It'll have a link to the submission. And you can help get some of your favorite TV shows represented. There'll be a results show in February with myself and Connor, revealing what the results of that vote is. So if you're interested, obviously it's not directly comic book related, but I did actually give this some thought that when we're hitting 250 episodes on Multiverse, that we might do something similar for, say, DC characters for our audience to vote on. So we're a little bit away from that yet. Still got more than 10 episodes away from that, but so.
Oh yeah, right as we're incredibly busy with the new Infinite Frontier books.
Oh no, I'll be after that.
I'll be on now.
Yeah, well, we'll be after the first month of Infinite Frontier. There's not that many.
Yeah.
We'll drop stuff. Not even that many of them. So look forward to that hitting sort of mid-spring, summer time. But yeah, So go have a look at that. But otherwise, that is pretty much us, unless there's something I've forgotten to promote or push.
Just, previously, will be returning very soon.
Very soon, very very soon. So we're recording it. Should be this coming week. I don't know if it'll be out before the next comics from the Multiverse, but it should be recorded before the next comics from the Multiverse. So I look forward to that. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. This has been Comics from the Multiverse, episode 237. So thank you. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
I guess the Legion lived too long.